Hello, everyone. How are we all doing? Come on in, sit on down. It's time for another episode of the Truther Therapy Sessions. That's right. It's Sunday evening, and I've got a bit of a special show for you guys. A bit of a mystery special guest. I bet you have no idea who it is. I know you're just biting at the bit to figure out what's going on here. But I also actually have two guests. So this is a double special, another recurring guest who's also been on the show before. And I've kind of had a lot of people contacting me lately wanting to come onto the show. So I've been doing like a balancing act of dates and times. You know, this time of year is quite busy, and I've managed to double book these two into the one show. So we're going to wing it. We're going to have a bit of a back and forth. And we're going to have a good conversation today, I believe. But I'm just going to get straight into it without further ado. My special guest is Tomas, the guy who did the Is Everything Poison presentation not that long ago on my channel, but also a recurring guest from Switzerland with some great insights in folk traditions. And of course, we're going to catch up with JT follows JC Joe. Are you guys there? Can you hear me?
I can.
Go
on.
Fantastic. Right, the volume looks good, the sound looks good. I think the guys can hear you. But yeah, thanks for doing this. Again, it's a bit unorthodox having a bit of a three-way conversation. It's been, I think the last time I did something like this, I think Joe was actually here, and we had like five different people on all at once just talking about the little season, I think it was, and we were just having a very huge back and forth conversation about what was going on in that, what feels like a lifetime ago for me now.
It's been a minute. It's probably been about 1,000 hours of live streaming and podcast since then.
Something like that, absolutely. Someone actually joined the Telegram the other day and started reposting one of our hagiography videos. Remember that thing? And,
oh yeah, we forget that.
They were like posting it in my Telegram. I'm like, no, that's a blast from the past. Like, is there a reason you've just posted my own video there? He's like, oh, I've just discovered it. And I'm like, okay, so they're in a different world now. I'm like far removed. It feels like a long time ago since I've like even discussed anything like that. But Joe, from what I've seen, you've been doing the rounds. You've been busy.
Yeah. So obviously I feel very blessed by God that I've been able to do this full time starting the beginning of September. And, so that was the one thing that was kind of preventing me from going out. And, when I got invited on shows, especially if they're like in studio, I couldn't really do it when I had the day job. But now it's kind of like no holding back. So I've been having fun doing that. It's been a blast being able to go visit places and, of course, do a little research, like boots on the ground stuff at the same time. And also, just connect with other people. It's been a trip.
Yeah, I mean, you've been doing the classic in studio interviews I've seen. High definition Joe, going all over the place.
Yeah, it's a whole different world. It is funny. Like when the first one I did was beginning of September, I went down to Miami, and it's something weird about like I've done, I don't know how many podcasts now. I mean, too many to count. But the amount I've done in person was like, I did one before that, like in the previous like 3 years. So I was like pretty nervous. I'm not typically very nervous to go on a podcast, but there's just something about like, especially when you have like the camera that pans way out and you're like, what am I supposed to do with my hands? What am I supposed to do with my feet? Like I feel kind of awkward just sitting in this chair. And of course, then eventually you're like, don't make an Illuminati hand sign. Please don't do anything. Don't touch your face weird. Because you're going to get screen grabbed and then you're going to be, got him. But yeah, it's been fun. Of course, after doing a couple of them, it's like, I kind of enjoy it because it does seem like you're just having a conversation with somebody and just going out to, especially we went to Las Vegas 2 weeks ago. And then we go in this podcast studio and there's all kinds of like, pretty famous people just walking in and out of there. Cause I guess a lot of people rent space there and just like, it was sort of surreal. I met Tim Alberino. I was on Jake Shields' podcast. Dan Bilzerian was there. Sean Kelly had people on his show that we knew, like, people from all kinds of different fields. Like there was like a champion rodeo guy there. There was a Mr. Olympia bodybuilder there, like 7 times Mr. Olympia. And I was like, this is really weird. Me and Brian hanging out with all these, actual celebrities. It was funny.
I bet Brian was in his element.
Brian was thriving. The funniest part was at one point, some lady walked in and there was, I would say that as far as being internet famous goes, there was like 4 people in the hallway that were very internet famous. And she like walked past all of them and she's like, demon erasers. It was the funniest thing. It was like, okay. So, people's different perspectives, but yeah, it was definitely a trip.
I think I remember the last time I saw something from Brian, it was shared with me in the group chat for my mods, and it was him. I think he was in a train station or something. Was it Grand Central? I'm not sure. I don't know where he was in America. And he's there, like, looking around all these symbols with his camera. And I think he just shouts out really loud, something like, the Jews did 9/11 or something like this. I don't know what it was. He just shouted something really obscene and loud out. It's echoed through this hall full of thousands of people. He just, unashamed, carried on with his life and carried
Yeah, that's Brian. That's Brian. Of course, when I get to go places with him, I'm always cautious about, like, maybe staying just a little bit away from him, just in case he does have an outburst like that. Yeah, he was in what's called the Oculus, I think. Is that or is it called the Oculus? I think it is. It's the
That's right. That rings a bell.
It's like the transport depot, I guess, that's now on, like, where Ground Zero was.
Right.
And it's that thing that kind of looks like a giant eyelash or whatever it is. And yeah, so that's where he was saying all that stuff. And eventually he tells me he got asked to leave the 9/11 memorial, like the big abysses over there, because he was being controversial there. And I said, "Oh, I can't imagine why they would have wanted you to not be there."
Yeah,
sarcastically.
Well, all power to the guy. Honestly, I'm not going to stop him from just being him. But yeah, he's a wild one for sure. But again, congratulations, good for you for obviously getting yourself out there and being able to do this full time. That's some good news. And this being the Truth of Therapy sessions, I think it's kind of nice to come to a therapy session and have some good news for once. I'm happy for you. That sounds good.
Yeah, and of course, I'm always glad to come here. You saw that I posted, so, YouTube, I'm sure a lot of people, not just the content creators, but just the people who watch YouTube, you get like a list of, like, your year in review. So this has nothing to do with me making content. So it was saying, here's my favorite podcasts or my favorite channels from the year. And number 2 was Understanding Conspiracy. And I said, that's pretty cool. Of course, number 1 was my own show, but I've got my reasons for watching my own channel, but you know what I mean? So, but you made the number 2. You were ahead of Brian. Brian was number 3.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
Honest, Joe. I'm truly honored. I got my own, and I forgot to screenshot it, but you were on there. I don't know what the order was, but I'm pretty sure I was also at the top as well. I think it's just when you're a content creator, you're always on your channel all the time, sorting stuff out. I think that's why you always end up at the top of your own list.
Well, if you premiere videos, like, you're watching your own videos, so, like, I feel obligated to, well, not just obligated. I enjoy, the discussions in the live chat while the show's playing and interacting with the peeps. It's always fun. So yeah, I don't think it's just a vanity thing that my favorite channel is my own. It's more like just this is part of the duty of as a podcaster on YouTube.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about this earlier, and I think maybe Thomas can understand this as well. But I think it's these type of shows, or this community we have, we all kind of know each other. I know everybody in the chat, and we all all the content creators in this space are we know each other, and we're always in each other's videos, or at least in the comment section of each other's videos, just checking in, saying hi. And it's like it's a real sense of community. And I feel like half the time when I do a show, the people aren't here to listen to me. They're actually just here to talk to each other in the chat and have that that gathering, that community, that church in a way for a lot of people, I think, and that fellowship. And that's why we do this, So yeah, I'm often in my own chats just talking to people because I want that. I want to talk to people too, So if I'm ever having my own premiere, I can agree with that. And I'm sure, obviously, Thomas has been a subscriber for a long time to all of us. And do you feel that, Thomas? Is that true? Do you think?
Yeah, I just was talking to my wife and told her, for me, it's a bit like church or community, and I wish I could live closer to you all, but yeah. The internet makes it easy to connect because it's lonely sometimes, especially in this country here.
Yeah, imagine you're in the thick of it there in Switzerland, I imagine.
Yeah, and it's getting pretty bad, People here, there's so much stuff going on here lately. Like, I will talk about it later, maybe some new findings or things I dare to talk about now. But it seems to be the hub of everything. Like
the hub.
It's crazy. Like the files that are starting to get released on Friday. I'm not even sure if you can say these. The e-files, like today in our media, there was a huge article that Switzerland is in those files, and they made it public here in Switzerland, and that was weird. So let's see where this all leads.
Well, I think we're definitely going to get into that later because I know you have a lot of things to share that you've kind of been hinting at me in emails and everything. I think we can have a good back and forth, all three of us, about some of these things, Thomas. So absolutely. But just to round off, Joe, I am curious. How's the little season doing? How's the community doing? I've kind of dipped out and been focusing on a new direction for my own channel, but I'm there. Yeah, I'm still there. I still have my videos up. I'm still discussing it when people ask me. It's come up on a few podcasts I've been on recently, and I've given like the usual spiel and the usual like presentation I can give when people ask, you know. But you're still out there on the front line, like pushing hard on the idea and really getting into your teeth into the research. And I'm just wondering, has the landscape changed since like the 6 months since I've been there? Are people more open to it now? Are we still getting like debunking pushback? What's going on? Fill me in.
I would say that from my perspective, I guess I haven't really changed anything that I was doing, so I just continue to just find new things, and I always try to put the pieces together. Of course, the more I read my Bible, the more I have more scriptural ammo for the case for it. And of course, I think that you've always gave a really good, succinct presentation of it, and I think I've been getting a little better at it, just having to do it. I mean, in all honesty, I mean, I don't ever shy away from it, but sometimes when I get invited on shows, I'd rather them ask me about other things because, I'm sure you had the experience where every time you went on a show, that's all you were talking about. And then you're like, and depending on the host, it's really difficult to talk about it, I think, sometimes, unless they set you up with great questions. But overall, I would say that, no, I think it's only grown. I mean, there's people, because when I do my show, JT's Mixtape, obviously I get content from TikTok and Instagram, but a lot of times I'm on X now, seeing what people are talking about, and I'll get tagged in the most random threads and saying, hey, you need to listen to this guy. And then you see a lot of these kind of maybe bigger conspiracy counts on X are pushing the little season and everything. And the funny thing was, when we saw Tim Alvarino, I think Brian brought it up, and Tim kind of with like a smirk and almost an eye roll. It's like, yeah, that's all over the internet now. He's like, I guess thanks to you guys. And I'm like, well, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, but yeah, so I would say that it's only continued to grow. I mean, I think that, I don't know that anything, like, I'm not saying it peaked, but I mean, obviously when you talked to Eddie Bravo about it and he brought it up on Rogan, I mean, that was kind of like maybe a high watermark, but ever since then, I have way more requests just to do shows. And again, I'll talk about whatever anybody wants to talk about when I get invited on their podcast. And I don't mind talking about it, but yeah, the community's growing, I believe. And I think a lot more people are talking about it, and a lot more people are being able to defend it. I still have that kind of all those bros who want to debate me and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I'm still been resistant to that. But overall, I would say, yeah, it's still moving forward. And I still think that there's a lot more we can learn.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when I kind of hit my apex with it, it was at this point where it's kind of like I'm just saying the same thing over and over again now, to be honest. And I was surprised it was even brought up to Joe Rogan. I'm surprised Eddie even bothered, because it was just very quickly just brushed away and like, no, we're not going to talk about that, And that's the peak we're going to get. But I feel like the community, like you said, has kind of been taken over by a lot more people better than me, who are more like on fire, going in those comment sections onto those debunking videos and kind of, making the case solidly. And I think the information is pretty much down now, as much as we can get it from our own perspective. There's still things we don't have answers to, and objections people have, obviously, where there's just stuff we can't know. And I made that argument plenty of times, because everything's just been completely messed up, historically speaking. Like, we're trying our best, but we just know what Jesus said, and we're working backwards from there, and I think that's our best, most sound argument. And yeah, like I said, I've had a few people kind of bring it up in podcasts, and it does take up a good portion of the podcast when they bring it up. And it's kind of like, okay, so I spent 40 minutes explaining this to you now again, but there are other things to discuss, other topics, other ideas. And I'm lucky now that I seem to be going on podcasts discussing a wider range of topics. Because I think right now there's stuff happening as well, which does need to be addressed. Like world events, like
you're right,
things, big things happening. In the UK, you talk about war with Russia right now, and on a real propagandist type scale. You know what I mean? Like they're really hyping us up for that idea. And then obviously we have the rise of Christian nationalism, Albert Pike's plan coming to fruition as well. And I think we can't take our eye off the things that are actually going to be happening to us very soon. Big picture stuff is great. Little season stuff is great for big picture, all-encompassing answers as to why these things are happening. Absolutely. But these things are still happening and people are still falling for it. And we still need to be a voice explaining why it's all false. At least we need to be addressing these issues. And thankfully, I have been able to start addressing these issues on podcasts again. It seems like the little season is becoming a side note now, eventually. It took a while, you know.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's still a framework where we still kind of have how we view things. But yeah, you're right that when things come up week to week, day to day, they're actually more important than talking about the little season constantly. But you can frame it within this eschatology view that it makes sense. But yeah, the people who want to just discuss it, I mean, again, that's their prerogative. I mean, that for me, I've always consider myself kind of a jack of all trades. I guess depending on who you ask, I don't know if I have a specialty or not. I mean, I know a little bit about a lot of things. So maybe I'm a little bit ADHD in order to focus on one thing and really just make that my thing. The little season gives me the ability to talk about lots of things, you know, so I think that's why I like to talk about it. But it was interesting when I went out to Los Angeles and I went to Vegas. But I did a really good show with this guy named Apollo the Original. Have you just? I think maybe I might have dropped your name to him, but he was a great host talking about it because he had great questions for me, and actually he was like fact checking me using like AI right during the podcast. He wasn't like trying to debunk me, but he was ultimately like every time I said something, like it was confirmed to be true, and I think that actually gave the presentation a lot more, credibility. It wasn't this guy just saying, trust me, bro. Like I'm quoting scriptures. I'm talking about what Josephus said. I'm talking about 536 and all that stuff. And what was interesting on his channel, I saw that he posted a poll. Do you believe we're in the little season? And like, I want to say 65% of his audience said yes.
That's amazing.
And so of course, this guy's not like one of us. It would be different if it was like you or I put that poll up on our channel where you might get 70, 80% of people saying it. But I mean, this channel that this is the first time it's ever been discussed was just a couple weeks ago. And now the needle's moved that much. But yeah, I also agree with you that's why I always had, my JT's mixtape segment where I could talk about everything. So anything that's current. And to be perfectly honest, like a lot of times when I'm not doing my own show or doing my own show prepped, I'm looking at all kinds of other things that I don't even talk about on my show. And sometimes I kind of wish I could talk about more of this stuff because, you know what I mean? Like when you're, like I don't listen to a lot of people who make the same kind of content as me anymore because I just don't have time. So when I'm not doing it, I'm listening to, political stuff. And I know a lot of people will say that politics is fake and gay and it doesn't really matter, but I would disagree. I mean, it might be fake, but it still matters because I mean, these people are leading movements and a lot of things are happening now. I think they do need to be addressed.
Oh, massively. I mean, look, as conspiracy theorists, we know there's an agenda at play, and we talk about the New World Order, or at least they're constantly talking about the New World Order and a change, a great reset of some, and that actually is going to have tangible physical results in the world when they implement that. Things are actually going to happen that are not going to be in our benefit, and we need to be prepared for that. And if we're not paying attention, you're going to get sidelined, you're going to get taken out. You might lose everything if you're not prepared for what's coming around the corner. Like it can get really bad because these people are like cornered animals. I feel like their time's running out, to be honest, and they know it. I think everyone's suddenly like realizing, oh damn, we're being played. I think everyone's suddenly waking up rapidly now, and they're like, right, now shut it down. I think that's where they're at now. I think they're getting scared. Like I said, like the majority of people are figuring out what time we're in now. Even in audiences away from us are like, yeah, that makes sense. I think I get it now. I think it's all clicking for the masses, which means they're going to try and do anything they can now to maintain their order and their power and to implement this agenda they've had in the works for thousands of years. And they're not really willing to give it up that easily, at least 250 years if you want to go off the little season timeline, I feel like, they're cornered and the cornered animal's dangerous and we should be ready. We should be ready for whatever's coming next because they're going to do something. They're not just going to do nothing. And I feel like the little season community may have got a bit too distracted with this incredible truth, where they're actually not paying enough attention to what's right behind them, like the problem right in their own doorstep type of situation. And
right. Well, you got to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Like you need to be able to research old things, but also pay attention to what's current. It's kind of funny when I was first making content, and I realized on TikTok that if you talked about a new conspiracy, that's the more dangerous one for your account. You might get banned if you talked about a conspiracy that people are still trying to get their arms wrapped around and trying to figure them out and trying to be too close to maybe what's important right now. And so what I often used to do was like I would go backwards and I would research old stuff that you could kind of put together with more evidence of like, actually, here's what the truth is and here's the result of it. But sometimes I'd find myself researching this really old topic and then something's like hitting the news right then, like that day. And I'm like, everybody else is talking about this. Like, why was I so ready to drop this video that could have been dropped at any point? Because there's nothing new about what I'm going to say. And there's no time relevance to the things I'm going to talk about. And I've had tried to maybe try to correct that where, that I enjoy the historical research, the ancient research, but unless it's, almost all that stuff can wait if something's actually happening. And sometimes I would miss the current thing because I got so disillusioned with the news and politics. But again, when you have like people like the stories about Nick Fuentes, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Erica Kirk, I know it gets to be minutia and stuff like that, but these people are leading big movements. And I agree with you 100% that it seems like one side is becoming very desperate at this point. And you're right, they're not going to go away quietly. So, I mean, I do kind of wonder, and I don't want to, speak any kind of curse upon anything, but I you're kind of looking for like a big event type thing where there's a massive shakeup again in this world. Like I guess we should be on the lookout for that more importantly than probably anything, because I think that could be coming.
Well, you brought up some great points there, some great talking points, I think, about this whole rise of the nationalist right, Christian, a young Gen Z style Deus Vult Christianity, a Catholicism style, to counter the extreme anti-tradition modernity of this ultra-liberal, left-wing, social Marxist type of ideological framework that has just taken hold for the past 2 decades at least, and destroyed, especially Western culture, just ripped it apart, deconstructed everything to the point now where we have an entire generation of people, millennials to Gen Z, and maybe some Gen X as well, who are just completely disenfranchised and have no stake in civilization whatsoever anymore, with no power, land, money, family, or anything, because it was taken away from them. The entire rug was pulled out from under them. The ladder was yanked up by the older generations as well, and these political parties that have been in power and implementing terrible laws and rules, mass migration replacement going on as well. It's just, we're in a terrible state now. Like, the chickens have come home to roost, you know what I mean? This is happening now. This is the consequences of that on Nick Fuentes. This is what you get. You get this rise of these people who are not really, nothing's going to work against them like it used to. But when you, from our perspective, this corner of the internet who's been following these long-term agendas for a long time, it's kind of like, this is exactly how the plan goes. This is how they're supposed to do it. You have one wing of the same bird, take control for a while, then you let it swing to the other side drastically to cause as much chaos as possible, and then the phoenix rises from those ashes, and we're in the middle of that swing right now. It's just another giant swing. But you try and point that out to people, and they look at us and say, you're crazy. We have to do something. We have to defend ourselves, and we have the right to our own ethnic nation. And all the Nazi stuff starts coming involved, and it's kind of... But I'm sympathetic. It's like, I get why you're angry, and you're justified in having this reaction, but you got played to have that reaction. You do realize, like, this is a part of a way grander conspiracy that's been long in the making. But you tell people that, they get so angry because their daughters are being raped by immigrants. No wonder they're angry. So what are we supposed to do? We're kind of in a weird, horrible situation here. It's kind of like, we want to tell people the truth and let them know they're being messed with, and like, be careful how you react to what's going on. But at the same time, of course they're justified in these reactions. Horrible things are happening to them. So we're kind of in the controllers, in a way, bastards as they are, have really got us in a bind here, because something
Right,
revolutionary and reactionary is going to happen now as a counter
Well,
to
like
the horrible leftist Marxist stuff. Go ahead, sorry.
well, no, I was gonna say you've often said is like that they supplied our leaders, right? I think it's really interesting that I saw a video about this, and it was basically that Ben Shapiro is like and Nick Fuentes are like almost like the mirror opposites of each other. And if you think about the rise of both these people, I started even thinking about that, even like a Charlie Kirk, that I mean, I know that not everyone's like me, but I mean, more people are like me than are like them, where these people started out like their freshman year in college, like their first semester in freshman year, and immediately they have this massive political voice, like right away. So Charlie Kirk starts turning point like in his teens, like 18, 17 years old. Nick Fuentes, I watched his interview with Tucker Carlson, and that's exactly the same story, was that he started getting on the debate scene his first semester freshman year, and almost before his full year in college, he was already doing it professionally. I think that's unusual. Ben Shapiro's got a very similar story too, and it seems like, yeah, I just can't imagine that's actually organic. And it seems like, yeah, that they're pushing people in two different camps. I mean, it seems like that what things are really kind of falling along the party lines is that parties are looking less important, which of course we've all often said for many years. But now it's more like, are you a Zionist or are you not a Zionist? Because it doesn't really matter if you're Republican or Democrat in America now. It's like if you're not supporting Israel, well, then you're an enemy of people who are Democrats and Republicans. It's like they just had that AmFest for Turning Point, where they just had this big conference, and that's the only thing that mattered. Like, these people are attacking each other. All these people on the right are attacking each other because you're antiseptic, anti-citrus, and that's really like the only thing that they're even talking about. So I think that, yeah, like when Nick Fuentes, he would have great points talking about, yeah, he would have a great message for young people who says you guys are getting screwed. They are. It's very clear, but like, so what direction did they go from here? And I think that's obviously the more important part, is that he's telling a lot of true things. You know, we talk about, like, you know, can't even really get too much into it on YouTube, but like if you revisit World War II and then you kind of see like the result of it, and this is the result of it, and now you kind of revisit that and you say, did they tell us the truth about all that stuff? So when people look into it, now they're really getting radicalized about like what they can say and what they can't say. And I think that's the kind of more disturbing point about it, is that you can't really put that toothpaste back in the tube now. Like, they can try to crack down on speech, but that's only going to confirm those people to be correct if they can't talk about it now. Like, because I mean, I think that the Zoomers have, you know, they've watched a genocide being live streamed on TikTok and on all these socials. And so they're never going to go back to that boomer Zionism theology. That's done. Like, so they're losing the culture war. So that's what I do wonder, if the desperation leads to something really dramatic, some kind of massive false flag, just kind of trying to reset the deck. But even if you see like the Bondi attacks, I mean, I think most people had pointed out right away. It's like, okay, so that's interesting. This thing takes place, this massacre in Australia happens during Hanukkah. And the first thing Netanyahu's saying, he's blaming on Iran. And I think everybody's kind of like what's the meme from, was it the Leonardo DiCaprio meme? Oh, see, there it is. See, we knew that they were going to point that out. And so now they're trying to justify more crackdowns on quote unquote hate speech. And it just seems like,
there was also
they're really playing us.
Not long after the Charlie Kirk thing, there was a synagogue attack in the UK as well. Similar circumstances involving a bomb vest and all these type of things, I think, if I remember correctly. These things get memory hold because it's just one thing after another, you know, but I'm pretty sure it was the same narrative. We need to defend our Jewish community more and so forth, you know, and from our leaders immediately, and it's kind of, you know, they're most affected by all of this. It's that kind of immediate response, you know. And this is another thing. Like, it seems odd that I'm even allowed to say these terms on YouTube, and it seems like this platform's changed a lot as well. And I was talking to a musician called called Scott Helmer, and he used to have his own podcast in 2016 where he had like 100 episodes with guests coming on talking about everything and anything conspiracy, and he got instantly banned, everything removed, entire music career destroyed, all of his gigs. Like, he was headlining for he was like, frontmanning for like quite a lot of big bands. Lost all of his gigs because he announced on stage that he won't be wearing a mask. Again, he refuses to go involved with those mandates, and he lost everything overnight, including his podcast. But he's like looking at me and talking to me. He's like, the stuff you're saying now, like, I can't believe you're getting away with it. People like you and JT, it's kind of like, we could not say that in 2016, 2017 on YouTube, especially. And he says maybe they're starting a list or something and they're letting people say it so they can gather data on who's, you know what I mean?
We started to wonder that. It's funny. So I went down. So it was just interesting. My story was that I was in Florida about to record a podcast when Charlie Kirk got shot. And so I was going on this channel called Rift TV. It used to be called Slightly Offensive TV, and it has that guy Elijah Schaefer on there. And so his old channel, I want to say, had almost like 600,000 subs, somewhere in that range. And then but they got demonetized and like basically shadow banned. So then he started posting under this new channel. Now he's monetized under Rift TV. And it was funny. I was sitting there asking him, I was like, so you got in trouble for the things you were saying, but now you got this new channel and you don't really seem like you're letting up. You're not more careful now. And it was funny, like what his take on it was like the guys there were just like, oh yeah, well, Trump's president now. And he said, and I was like, that's it? Like, that's the only difference? And he was like, yeah, he's like, so if in 2028 or whatever, Gavin Newsom becomes president, then we'll have to tone it down again. But I was just like, is it really that simple? And I guess from my perspective, I really only started talking on these platforms during the Biden presidency, and probably at the height of people getting banned for talking about things. So I've definitely self-censored. But yeah, I mean, the things that I hear on a lot of these big channels, like, I'm shocked. Of course, that's the funny thing. Like, I have my Patreon and I post the stuff that I don't think I can say over there. But truth be told, if I could say everything they say on like a Joe Rogan podcast, well, I wouldn't need to have an uncensored version of my YouTube videos because they say everything. And I think that's the thing, is like, we don't really know what we can say and what we can't say. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, that I don't know how they go back to banning people for saying these kind of things now, because for the one thing is like, the things that we say on here are not hateful. I mean, they're just kind of pointing these things out. And it's more like us discussing the things, versus like how it's playing out in the political realm. Because everyone's talking about this. This is not going away. And it is funny that I had that thought of, hey, is this possible that they're just trying to give us enough rope to hang ourselves with later? Like that, okay, so they're going to say whatever you want. You're right. And then just like Santa, he's making a list. He's checking it twice. He's finding out who's naughty and nice. And I'm thinking like, yeah, I've definitely considered that. But I mean, at this point, the list has got to be very big.
Yeah, they don't know if they have the resources for that. There's not enough coffins in the FEMA camps. There's just not enough. Like, I don't think.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like that's the thing. I don't think that that's their plan, honestly. I mean, I don't think that these people are stupid either, but I don't think that this is their plan. That's why you see like the Netanyahu's coming out and they're trying to ramp up their Hasbara, where he literally has these influencers come into his, have some meeting with them. And he's saying, what's the most important thing we need to do? We need to buy TikTok. Now we got to align with Elon Musk because he's a friend of ours. So we'll make sure that, because if the message, if they really did want to promote this, well, then they're trying to do a lot of things. I want to say that the person who's in charge of like the community guidelines at TikTok now is like a former IDF soldier. So it's like, I feel like they're trying to rein it back in, but again, I don't see how it happens. I mean, I think they can't do what they're doing when they're prosecuting this war in Gaza and also try to put lipstick on a pig here. I mean, people see that and it's like, actions speak louder than words. And a lot of people know that when they're speaking out against what they see as injustice happening in the world, and then they're getting labeled a anti-Semite for doing it, Well, now they really see like that term has lost all meaning to people because you're like, I'm not one. I just don't like that. So if that makes me an
Hmm.
anti-Semite to say I don't like children getting their limbs blown off, well then I guess that I am one. And then people are not
Hmm.
afraid of that label anymore. And it's the same way that kind of like like the pendulum is going to swing back really far the other way. And I mean, I think it has.
Hmm. Well, I know Thomas has probably a lot to say about this. I think was it you, Thomas, who gave me that fantastic analogy about chess and
Yeah.
even yeah. I'll give it to you because I know you've stayed quiet there for long enough. Thank you for your
Yeah, of
patience.
course.
But I
So,
know you do have your own thoughts on this. So I'll give the floor to you. What do you think of all this?
well, and this is one of the reasons I am anonymous because my family, I'm originally German, goes back hundreds of years. I mean, you can believe me or not on this, but I am actually from what's the word in English? Like an old royal house. Like we have the entire family tree, and my grandfather basically got born in 1899. So when he got my father, he was very, very old because he had lost his wife and his daughter in the bombing of Dresden and basically started over. So, what I've know from my own family, everything you just described happened in Germany in Weimar, the Weimar Republic, and I think that's a period not really known to US Americans. And I think most conspiracy.
I've learned a little bit about it lately.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
what happened? And I know this from my own very own grandfather, and my grandmother who passed away a year ago when your grandmother passed away, basically, almost the same time. So talking to Paul here. So what I heard is they did the exact same thing. Berlin was a cesspool, and we know the story how H-Man, the angry painter, got took over. But what people don't know is there were two groups inside the German National Socialist Party, and one group killed the other group. It was, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say these words here, but you can look into it. Like the group with the double lightning symbol prevailed in a
Mhm.
night, and overnight they killed the entire competing group. Maybe it was organic, but from that point onward, my grandfather also was threatened, and they told him, "Look, it's going this way now. You either play ball or we kill you." And he opposed it. He really wanted to bring change. So by that time the war had started. They sent him to a place called the Ostfront. That's the Russia campaign, where basically almost everyone died. But he survived. And what he told my father and what I learned from my grandmother is everything is fake and gay. Like when the war ended, he was paperclip. Operation Paperclip is most likely a very big thing to you. You know what this is? Because he was working on some secret technology. And again, I don't have any way to prove this without doxing myself, which I won't do. But you can look this up. I mean, everyone knows what Operation Paperclip is, what happened in Los Alamos. He was there. And he told me that the people in that state in the Middle East, they invited him and they were in the German ranks. I know this from my grandfather. The people that are in the Middle East that we just talked about, like, the Zionists, whatever you want to call them, they were in the German government. And he knew these people. And I know the names of these people today. They worked together. He took many things in the grave. But what he told us, like his father and my father told it to me, they work together. And the whole the whole story is so fake and gay about the camps and everything. It makes me laugh. And again, I know this from my own family, and they work together. So everything happening now reminds me of what my grandfather told me. They want the people to actually be willing to fight. The German people, my people, we back then thought that the angry painter was doing a good thing. And I think the angry painter himself believed it. My grandfather and grandmother have both met him. And I think my grandfather was quite acquainted with the angry painter. At least that's what I can see from family pictures. And actually, the father of my grandmother, because she was very young when she married my grandfather, and he was very old. It's a bit weird. So that's why I have such a long Like that's why my grandfather was born in the late 1800s. He would be like, I don't know, 126 years old today, or 127 years old if he was still alive. And she died at the age of 92, my grandmother, last year. So the interesting thing is, they told me both that they were all in on it, except H-Man. Like the angry painter probably didn't know. And some say he was in on it. So I don't know. But what really is important, I think, is the same thing is playing out right now. And my grandmother was all in. She adored the painter man, and she prayed to him every night. She told me every night before she went to bed, she stood up and went in front of a picture of this man and prayed to him. That's my own grandmother telling me this. So there was some serious idolatry going on in the German Reich, or Reich, or the Deutsches Reich. That's what it's actually called in German. I know I will make the Fuentes guys angry, but from what I know from my family, it was serious idolatry going on. It was very, very bad. And my grandfather opposed this, and they tried to kill him. He got wounded several times in the Russian war. He went to Stalingrad, came back severely wounded, but he made it. And he was invited to California, to Hollywood, interesting enough. And he did many, many trips to Argentina. And I don't know if I can say this here, but I think the angry painter survived, from what I know from my own family. And they're trying the same thing
Still?
again. Yeah, he survived. He survived. He did. Yeah, I'm almost.
Wasn't he like 50 in during the war?
Yeah, but they allegedly, again, this is allegedly, I don't want to say it's that way, but allegedly they worked on technology to, I just saw an Instagram reel on this, which is funny. Allegedly they knew how to prolong the life of people. And I don't know how much truth there is to it, but we know we can live longer. I mean, we are disease riddled with all these, chemicals in the air. But when my grandmother died, for example, and I don't know if they did any experiments to her, she was never sick. She had all her teeth with 92. She looked so much younger when she died. And she had a lot of traumatizing experiences. I talked to her about it a lot. And she was there when they tested the flying saucer, whatever you want to call them in German, like these things. She saw it. When I was a child, she played with me. And I loved Lego and all this thing. And she would build me these discs. And I asked her, what is this? And she told me, oh, das ist die Wunderwaffe. So that means that's the wonder weapon. That never came, but that's popping up in the US. And my parents would always be like, shush, don't show this to the boy. He doesn't know what you're talking about. But she always said he needs to know because this is how it was. And she saw all these things because she grew up in a place called Kärnten, where there was a certain, what's his name? Another Austrian guy who invented lots of alternative propulsion technology. I keep forgetting his name. Anyways, so she saw all these things, and that's how I got into conspiracy at a very young age. When I was like 12 years old, I'm the same age as Paul almost. I children talk in school, and I talked about the things my grandmother told me, and I was scolded by the teachers. Oh, that's not real. Stop talking about this. Flying saucers aren't real. And I started getting books secondhand in the library and started looking into UFOs and all that stuff. And I was always the weird kid because I looked into these things. So I think whatever my grandfather did, whatever my grandmother did, the things they told me years later as a young adult, I learned that's actually officially not real. But I trust my family more than I trust the media outlets. And my family told me very similar things to what's happening right now. My grandfather told me, if you read the newspaper, no, you can believe nothing except the weather forecast, and of that, only 50%. So I mean, he was right. And again, he told me people of Jewish or Judaic faith were in the German ranks. He knew them, and I have pictures of him with these guys. They work together.
Yeah, I want to say that I heard recently that there was like 140 or 150,000 Jewish soldiers in the German army during
Yes,
World
that's
War
true.
II.
Yeah, and what these guys
They
did.
didn't tell you about that in history class.
Oh no, they didn't. But what these guys did was horrible. like my grandfather, what he told about those guys doing in the Second World War, there were horrible things done, but it's all blamed on, the Germans. But it was not, when we look at the Second World War, we think, oh, it was the Germans against the rest of the world. But there was a lot of infighting within the German government because I think it's always the same. An idea starts organically and then it gets hijacked. I mean, we see this with the Little Season thing. I think you will probably see this yourself. I mean, if somebody gets to the truth, if they see they cannot cover it, they will try to infiltrate it. And I think that's what's happening now. And I don't know if Fuentes is real, but I don't trust any of these guys because the thing is, and now it gets spicy. These people don't forget. If your family has been in this kind of work, they will approach you. And there's a reason I don't show my face. I didn't do this. But if you're like a bright mind, they will try to, get you to do certain things. And I know people that have worked for, or I think at least, they have worked for the enemy their entire lives without knowing it, because they believed they were doing the right thing. And yeah, Fuentes, I think he's legit, but maybe he's being used. That's my.
I don't think so. I think he's a
Well, he
gay
believes
fed.
he's legit, but he is not. You know what I mean? Like he probably thinks that what he's doing is correct, but
Well, it's funny. He even hit one of the things a couple of things he said is like the major shift in him as far as like him coming after Israel. And then after Charlie Kirk died, a lot of people are pointing to Israel, thinking they could maybe be responsible. And he's so against that. It's
oh
just
yeah,
such
he is. Yeah,
it
yeah.
seems really unorganic that he's doing it like this. And then even when he went on Tucker, he mentioned he had the same birthday as Joseph Stalin. And then he was saying my favorite political character or something like that.
Oh really? Oh
Yeah, and
well,
Tucker
yeah.
was like,
There you
"What?"
go.
Yeah, and then I saw this clip on X where he was saying that he liked he liked Stalin better than the H man. And everyone was like, "What?" And it was basically, it was like saying like how much more he got done. And we are just like, he's like, "Yeah, it was kind of unfortunate that he persecuted a bunch of Christians, but he was pretty important." And I was just like, "What?"
Well, okay, well, he's
Um,
fully aware then. I didn't see that bit, so then he's fully aware. Um, but there is people I think that, well, he can be a very good actor. There's some people that I think are used without them knowing. I think that's MK Ultra, basically.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah, well, there's definitely certainly a lot of that. I want to go back to one thing you were talking about, especially with Operation Paperclip. I
Yeah.
think it is kind of interesting when you first learn about it. Of course, I was on the completely full believe everything about World War II and everything we were taught about that. So you're thinking like the guys they got to be in this program were some of the most wicked guys, because guys like Werner von Braun, I guess when he was making the V2 rockets, he was like in charge of one of these camps. So
Well, my grandfather was
It's kind of
there.
interesting. Like you have to pick a lane here, right? If we're told what's accurate about World War II, then yes, the guys they got from the German side that were scientists or whatever, and they were doing experiments and everything, then they were some of the worst guys that there possibly were. But if what we're told is not true, that actually makes more sense that the guys they got maybe were not as bad as we were told they were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
don't you have to kind of pick a lane? Like who are these guys? Because
Well,
obviously it kind of makes more sense when you see pictures with John F. Kennedy and Werner von Braun and they're just hanging out. There's also that one guy I forgot. I want to say it's like during like the Apollo missions, and this guy's got this big old nasty scar on his face. And
oh
it's
yeah.
like
Yeah.
and of course I've heard the stories where those guys were, I can't remember, I don't know that he was in the SS, but he ended up that all these Germans who had these big wicked scars on their faces, they were like really the most hard. I mean, of course, it's like in the movies. They're all, of course, clearly they're the most hardcore guys, where they were doing these fencing
Yeah,
matches with
yeah.
no
Menzu.
mask and
Yeah.
cutting their faces open.
It's not that bad, honestly. That is
It's not that bad.
no, no. Actually, that's a tradition here. It's called Menzu. I was invited to that too because they start to approach you when you're very young, and I think and I've experienced that, and I have to give it to my wife. She is the one that pointed out a lot of things in my family that just don't make sense. And I was gaslit my entire early adult life until I found Jesus Christ. And the moment I confessed my
Man,
sins to Jesus Christ and told him, I follow you, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Master, nothing else, they stopped. They stopped. And I remember when I
praise
was a
God.
child, and that is very hard for me to talk because I've been through some really messed up shit, like really messed up shit. And there's these communities online with people that have been MK Ultra victims, and we all had to do these tests. And when Paul recently went on a show and thought, "Oh yeah, I was taken to a hearing test," wait, well, that's how it starts. We had to go
Yeah.
to a hearing test as a. I'm digressing, but I will bring it back together later. So I was told, yeah, it's just a hearing test. And I did very well, so I was put to another hearing test, and I did very well again, and then a third one, and then I asked my mother, "Hey, do I have bad hearing?" Because I can hear everything. The teachers tell me I hear so well. And she said, oh, yeah, we do this again. And she probably believed this was a hearing test. Anyways, I remember one moment when they played tunes over these strange headphones. I had to press a button and each button represented a tune, and I pressed the button correctly before they played the tune, and they got very excited. So the next test was me hooked up to some heart monitor, and I think they really have their eyes. They try to find people, bring them up early on, like Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson is one of them, I think too. Like
Well, yeah,
people,
Tucker's dad was his dad was in this thing called Voice of America, and so he was basically Operation Mockingbird.
yeah.
Just
So
yeah.
my grandfather, because I have told this to some people in real life, so I don't want to tell you what he did, what kind of invention he did. Two inventions that we use. He made two inventions we use daily, and like my entire family has been in this stuff, and I kind of said I'm the first one that said no, I don't want to do this, and they try to get you in there very early on with all these tests, and when you're 18, on my 18th birthday, I was doing this travel to the north, which I told Paul about, where I saw the ice wall and everything, and there were some very, very, very weird people. Yeah, I saw this, and there's only 10,000 people alive at every given moment, apparently. So they told me that have seen this or were that far north. And the moment I was there, I'm going back and forth. I know I could talk for hours. Anyways, what I want to say is they try to get you into this club very early on and appeal to your ego. Oh, you're special. You're better than them. That's the message they give you. And then they use you for whatever. And I think Charlie Kirk's death, if he's really dead, which I think he is, maybe not, but whatever. I felt that because I think I could have become a Charlie Kirk because his wife, she was fully in on it. But
She does seem like it now. I
hey,
mean, it's really hard to say she's not now.
no, but I
She's
know
living her best life now.
that's how it works. They give you a handler, and several times throughout my life, I was approached by women, and my wife, she's probably watching right now. She knows all of this, and she's deep into the weeds of conspiracy. And she said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what was that you told me right now?" And I never thought about it, but yeah, like they try to get you into the system because lying 24/7 is very difficult. They need you to believe the story. I think very few people can lie 24/7.
Hmm.
So I don't know for sure. I opted out all of this. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. But I think they're running out of time, so they're getting desperate. Definitely.
It's funny. It's funny you say, what you're basically saying is a lot of the people who are perhaps controlled opposition, shall we say,
Yeah.
do not know that. They
Yes.
genuinely do believe the things they preach and talk
Yes.
about and want people to follow and believe. And they have a moral, it's morality to them. I stand
Yes.
by this. This is correct, morally speaking.
Right.
And so you believe them. Like, they're very
Yes.
convincing because they believe it, but they've actually always been groomed to get to that point. Even if they don't think it, they'll probably believe they got there organically and naturally through their own sweat of their own brow and good hard work and just being in the right place at the right time. But they're
Yeah, like
basically
in the Bible.
controlled.
Like
Go ahead.
The Jezebel spirit is a great example. Or um, like kings and evil rulers in the Bible often are influenced by other people. That doesn't excuse them, of course, but we see that they believe they do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like wasn't even didn't Klaus Schwab have some kind of young leaders of the world kind of thing?
Yeah.
What was that called? I forget what it was called, but he had,
Young global leaders, I think.
yeah, it was like he had like Macron was in it,
Yes.
Putin was in it. I know Pete Buttigieg or whatever he was in it.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
lot of very famous politicians.
Yes.
Oh, who was it? The German, what's his name? Is it Merkel?
Merz? No, that's the other guy. I know who you
No, it's
mean.
a woman. What was her name?
Merkel.
Angela Merkel.
Angela Merkel. Yes.
Angela Merkel. Yeah, she was in all these. It was like I remember at one point when they were saying the people who were in it was like I don't know how many of them were the leads of all these countries. And I agree with you. I think it makes sense that not all these people who started off really young knew that they were lying. And I think that's why Charlie Kirk could be a good example of this. If he was ever legitimate at all, it makes sense that if you're kind of raised as a dispensationalist and then you have all this backing from all these Zionists. I mean, before the war in Gaza, everybody was saying like, well, I mean, of course, it's terrorists and here's the one democracy in the Middle East. Here's our greatest ally. So it's easy to kind of believe that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us believed that for a long time before we were awakened to this kind of thing. And maybe it was like somebody like him was starting to reject some of the programming where it's like, wait a minute, this is really actually not what I thought. And as soon as you start to question any of it, then you're a liability. You're not an asset anymore. And yeah, it does seem like that Erica Kirk, and I remember Brian made that call really early on. He's like, I bet you that was his handler. Because the way she's acted since then, with all the pyrotechnics and all the podcasts and just being so excited to do all this kind of stuff. I mean, you can really imagine that if you were not ready to be a CEO of a major, over $100 million company, like right away after grieving, it would be impossible for a normal person to do this without being prepared for it. But yet she's just gone right into that role. And it's just like, it was the plan all along.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It seems like it. Thing is, when I listened to Charlie Kirk, and to be honest, I really didn't know anything about him till after the event. I really didn't, I
didn't know him.
It's one of those names I'd heard, but I've really got out of the whole campus debate me scene thing years ago when Jordan Peterson was doing all that stuff, you know what I mean? And it's kind of, I had never kept up with that kind of thing, and I'm not into American politics, so it wouldn't be something I would even have on my radar, to be honest, But when I did listen to his things after the fact, he actually seemed extremely sincere. So people telling me, he's actually a controlled opposition liar and all these type of things. I was like, well, I think it's more like what Tomas was saying. I kind of had that feeling to begin with. Like, he actually seems like he really believes what he's saying. If he is an actor, then he is the greatest actor I've ever seen in my entire life, with the conviction in the things he says is so convincing. You know what I mean? It's kind of, I think it's more like what you said as well, JT. Like, he actually believes in dispensationalist Zionist theology and he thinks they are God's chosen people. He's a Christian. He thinks it's our duty to back that nation. He actually believes it all, and he's the perfect
like in
person to go out
Seinfeld.
there.
You remember that famous line in Seinfeld? You ever watch that show when George was saying, "It's not a lie if you believe it."
Yeah,
exactly.
And so it's way easier to get somebody to lie if they actually believe it. Versus somebody who's because most people are not that good of a liar.
No,
they can like politicians, they parse and they spin these word salads where they never actually have to lie because they don't ever actually answer the question. I mean, of course, they eventually do straight up lie, but it's way easier for them to get somebody who already kind of agrees with this, and you get them young, and then you give them all the things, you give them all the backing. And then probably just human nature says that most people won't resist that, because it's like all the things that I've helped you with, now I can take all that stuff away.
Yeah,
and I can make you I can make you a pariah. So then most people don't have the fortitude to say, no, I'm going to take it. I'm going to push it all away and walk away from all this. But it is like all the kind of secret society stuff is like, you can't walk away. There's no way. We're not letting you walk away. You're in.
You made that phrase perfectly. Look, either you're an asset or you're a liability. Make a choice. Because we don't allow the liabilities. There's no liabilities in this, and people faced with that choice, it's kind of like, fine, if you're a rock star, I'll sing the songs until I'm 90 and dead and I'll never retire. Because it's kind of either
it's like the Bob Dylan thing, right?
Yeah.
where he's like, why are you still doing this? Well, I made a deal a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I'm keeping my end of the bargain. But yeah, most people are not, well, I said most people who are not in Christ will have a really hard time walking away from that. Cause like, why would you?
Mm-hmm.
I think most people would they'll just take the riches and they'll take the things and then they'll try to just isolate themselves in their own personal club in their own echo chamber. But people who are maybe more sincere, they might start to reject some of the programming. I mean, of course, I can't help but think too that a lot of it has to do with they're getting these people young, and you go back to Operation Paperclip and the mind control. I mean, I wonder if the tests they were doing on you, Thomas, was something about, is this guy suggestible?
Yeah.
Can he be used? Can we put in false memories, put in ideas of programming into this person? So they're looking for people who are suggestible. It's kind of like even we talked about a lot of my channel recently about Stranger Things. I mean, that shows that's what it's about. It's about MK Ultra. That's why they pick children, young boys, and they get them really young because it's even like go back all the way to like Star Wars, right? They couldn't train a Jedi when they were at a certain age, right? Like the Anakin was too old because they had to train them really young because they had to form their minds and get their minds right around this ideology. Because when you get to be a certain age,
special too. Oh, you're a special wizard with powers, and you're different from everybody else.
That's what they told me.
You're better. You're better than everyone else.
That's what they told me. Yeah. I mean, I know this sounds crazy, and I'm just a random anonymous guy off the internet, but I'm not here to get fame. If anyone out there hears this, if they tell you you're special or they tell you have gifts,
you're a wizard, Harry.
Yeah, honestly, I'm glad you mentioned this. I wanted to talk about Harry Potter is MK Ultra mind control or whatever, because that's like, I loved it when I was a child because it reminded me of these strange encounters I had. I am the guy who was taken out of class several times to have a doctor's appointment or have a IQ test and stuff like that. And my peers, like my friends, they would even mock me and say stuff like, "Oh, Thomas is again, the special kid," and stuff like that. I can't imagine the amount of money they invest into someone, and they don't let go. I could tell much more, but I'm simply afraid for my life, honestly, at this point. Well, not anymore. I mean, if I die, I die. But my wife, that wouldn't be nice for her, and she also is in the background here and tells me when to slow down. And the thing is, but it works like that. It's very simple. It's just like in the Garden of Eden. You are special. You can have it all. Just do what I say. And I was a very stubborn kid, and that what's also protected me. And I think that's maybe the reason they let me off easy. That could be. I don't know. But these tests are super strange. Like, I remember I had to push buttons when the sound comes on, and I pushed these buttons before the sound was played. Were they just telling me this, or was I really able to perceive these things before they happen? I don't know. But that was...
Man, that sounds like the stuff that they were doing in MK Ultra, where they're trying to get, they're trying to project this, obviously astral projection and all that kind of stuff, where like you get into like the telepathy tapes, which I think that's probably what they were doing in those 3-letter organizations. Is it wasn't like they were necessarily trying to implant demons. It was almost like that was probably something that would happen when they were using these empty vessels to go into this astral plane. That was a result of the things they were actually doing. But yeah, it's all about that they were going to use these kids in order to astral project, in order to get intel on people that they could not get intel on people. Honestly, I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I really do believe they believe that was a real thing. That's why they were working with psychics and mediums.
Look, I got you. That's the one thing I pray to the Lord often, and I wasn't sure if I should bring it up because I'm very alone with this. But I'm turning 33 next year, so Illuminati confirmed. But the thing is, a few hours before 9/11 happened, I told my parents it would happen, and that something today would happen. I didn't understand it, but I told my parents, look, something terrible is going to happen today. It will shape the earth for the next...
You said that on that day?
I said that before that. And I told them, something terrible will happen. You will see. And then the TV, they switched on TV and I pointed to the towers burning. It was all over the news here in Switzerland too. See, I told you. And they were shocked. And I said, in 20 years from now, something even bigger will happen. And it will be much, much worse. And here's the crazy thing. I'm not sure if it was a bit before that time. I used to put on a face mask, a surgical face mask, and told my parents everyone needs to wear a mask. And what happened 20 years after 2001? I know it sounds crazy. And these things have accompanied my entire life. Like sometimes I have seen things before they happen. And I prayed to the Lord in Jesus' name to deliver me of this, but He doesn't. I don't know what it is. I know I see your face, you can't see mine, but I'm as confused as you are. So I think people like us exist, and I think they are looking for us. But I'm not doing that. I follow Jesus. I don't care. Everything is fake and gay. I mean, if once you have seen through this stuff, you know. And the interesting thing is, in 2014, I just had started university. I was approached by a man, and he told me if I believed in conspiracy theories, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. Like I'm looking into it. I was like that guy that said, oh, let's see what these crazy people are believing. But at the same time, I was like interested. And he told me everything that would happen. He said, in 2020, 2021, remember me when they will put the entire world into a control program where everyone has to follow certain rules. And he didn't say that it would be a pandemic, but he told me basically everything that would happen. And and then he left. And I was like, what the heck was that? So yeah, that's the gaslighting, the constant gaslighting. And I always believed in God, but I, like, since I was a child, but Jesus, the idea of Jesus, I only understood and I only came to Jesus in 2021. And I think God has pushed me the entire life, but I was too arrogant. So now I'm here and it's been a wild ride. And I can't believe I told that online. But if anyone is hearing this, don't believe them. We are all sinners. Jesus Christ is the answer. Don't believe these people telling you something. That's what I want to say.
Amen.
Amen. Sounds like you've had a hell of a life there, Thomas. I'm not gonna lie.
I had, yeah.
Yeah. I remember my own beep test experience, and I think mine wasn't actually that sinister. My mum told me, yeah, you kept saying what to us every time we called your name, and we thought you were deaf, so we sent you in for a hearing test. It was just that simple. And I only went once, and I don't think I was special or anything because they didn't invite me back. Maybe I wasn't susceptible. Maybe I wasn't easily duped, so they thought, no, we can't work with this kid, and sent me. I don't know, but my mum genuinely sent me because she thought I was actually deaf. That's all I remember. But it was just when everyone started talking about this, I was like, wait a minute, I swear I went for one of those when I was like seven.
Same. Me
or
too.
something.
I did one of those tests a long time ago too. I think it was, they called it an IQ test, but I wasn't doing very good in school. And I think they wanted to put me on like Ritalin or something like that, which of course I was probably ADHD, but my mom wouldn't do it. But it was like, this kid's not stupid, so why is he not getting good grades in elementary school?
Same.
So I remember doing one of those IQ tests. And so I tested pretty high, but my grades really never got that much better. It was just probably because, I don't know, hopefully maybe inherently I knew that this stuff I'm learning is just nonsense. They're just making me, I could memorize anything that I wanted to memorize, but I didn't memorize stuff that was completely boring.
I feel the same.
It was hard for me.
I was always drawing in the back of math, just doodling. I was doing the very quiet, just in the corner of the back, drawing all the time. I'm an artist. That's what I actually cared about. But I didn't get bad grades at the end of it all. But I didn't pay much attention either, because it's kind of, you just have to remember what they want you to say, and you put it down in the right box, so you say the right thing when you do your essay and you passed. You don't retain any of that nonsense. I certainly tried my best not to retain after the fact any of that stuff. But I always find I kind of like middled my way through school, like never being too good at anything or too bad. Just kind of stay in that middle ground, and you go unnoticed. Like the teachers don't bother you, and no one talks to you. And I think maybe that's worked in my favor my entire life. Hopefully, the only thing I was good at was art, and no one cares about art, so they kind of forget about you anyway. So that's kind of the way I played it. But that beep test thing was always stuck with me as a memory. It's a very cold, terrifying experience when you're actually in there as a kid. There's something about it. Like, so maybe my mum sent me harmlessly, like, you need to get your ears tested. I think you're deaf because you keep saying what all the time. It's like you're not listening to us at all. It's because I'm just I was an imaginative kid. I was in my head. It wasn't like I wasn't listening to them. It took me. You had to just say it twice for me to snap out of it. You know what I mean? That's all it really was. Like, what did you say something? Because I was always imagining stuff. But maybe once I got in there, the doctors are like, "We'll test this kid while we're at it." Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's what it actually is. Like, it's a trap. It's like we get kids coming in all the time, but we'll test the hearing and give them a result, sure. But what we're really looking for,
and then we'll send them to a gifted school.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, is gifted really about being gifted, or is it the fact that maybe during one of these tests they found out this kid's actually very suggestible.
Yeah,
this guy could be used.
He believes he's gifted. I mean, come on, we've got him. That's basically
right. Yeah. So I mean, that's what it is. It's like, so then you go into a more focused schooling about what? Well,
that's
I mean,
like the craziest thing that haven't ever happened to me, but I didn't win a lot of money. I once dreamed the first 4 numbers of the lottery, and I wrote them down, and I bought a lottery ticket, and I won. It wasn't much, but it was not only the right numbers, it wasn't the right, what's the, like, it wasn't, I don't know how the lottery works in the US, but getting 4 numbers right in the right row, that's almost impossible. So I think they are not only looking for suggestible people, but also people that have the skills and are suggestible. And then they use them. That's my personal conspiracy. They use them in key roles in society. That's my personal theory. People that are nice, look nice, or people easily relate. When Charlie Kirk, he was like, I didn't know him before all of this, like Paul, but when I saw this guy, I was like, oh well, this guy looks kind of nice. Like, people, it's hard to be angry at him. And they have, I think, personalities for the villain, for the hero. Just like Albert Pike said, if they need a hero, we will supply it to them. And they need a supply. Where does this supply come from? It needs effort to build a supply.
Mm-hmm. So I guess they have like a list of people who they've kind of kept tabs on their entire life, who don't even know that they've been watched their entire life. Because they fit a certain profile, which is perfect for something they want to do in the future. And it's kind of like, well, we have like a short list of 10 candidates here. Who do we choose to go forward with the next agenda plan that we have scripted out already? But we have to obviously orchestrate in a way where they don't know this any of the plan. So we have to put a handler into their life, initiate meeting wife for the first time protocol. You know what I mean? They'll bump into them in the bar or something like that. And it's like this, they begin the process of literally controlling this because their profile, their character is perfect for the role. So the whole world's a stage in this Masonic theater, but do the actors necessarily know they're even playing a role half the time? I started to think no. I mean, someone actually asked me this on the last podcast I was on about controlled opposition. And specifically, they asked me about David Icke. And look, like Mark's in the chat, he's met David Icke's son at one of these conventions, you know what I mean, and talked with him and this type of thing. And I don't think David Icke's son thinks his dad's controlled opposition. You know what I mean? No. It seems like to believe what his dad believes, and his dad is very sincere about what he believes. But
he seems like he believes it, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But David Icke was a part of a lot of people's waking up process in the beginning, because he had these big 8-hour lectures, in front of like thousands of people on a stage. Well, he basically laid out the entire Illuminati control system. And then threw in the Archon stuff, the Prison Planet stuff, the Soul Recycle stuff, and about a peace, love, vibration, harmony, and all that kind of thing needs to be realigned. The New Age stuff thrown in there with all the truth, But he sincerely believes that actually is the genuine solution to the problem. Like, and he sees the problem, but he also was a sports broadcaster for the BBC. Before he had his big coming out moment where he was wearing this turquoise shell suit, being interviewed by Terry Wogan, this like talk show host, and he's there saying, we're all God, we're all Jesus, and this type of thing to like public television to all the UK. Absurd by anyone's standards, but it's kind of like he believes that. But then when you actually listen to him, he believes he got all of his knowledge from an entity that told him all this stuff.
Red flag.
Like he got it downloaded to him and given to him by a being of light and consciousness from his own perspective, which for us, again, huge red flag. But
Yeah, that's
he
bad.
does really believe it. I don't think he's like evil. I don't think like he's intentionally out there to deceive the masses. Haha, we'll get him in the agenda doing this. I don't think he's like thinking like that. And I think that's probably the case for a lot of them. Like Russell Brand on his sudden like Jesus hype right now, preaching at the recent Turning Point thing, apparently, like praying for everybody. It's like, well, maybe he's on the exact same journey. Like he actually really does believe in his beliefs. Like he's morally speaking, he's true. He's not lying. He's just wrong. You know what I mean?
No.
Like he actually
Right.
knows
Yeah. I mean,
this.
people.
Like
Those people are the most deceived because I agree. I mean, it makes more sense to me that I think that's what people always get in this community is they're always like, oh, this person's controlled opposition. And of course, to the people in the chat and the people who are like, watch our kind of content, they think it's like every podcaster they've ever heard of is potentially controlled opposition. I was like, it's really simplistic to think that there's this big meeting where we all go to and we get our marching orders. It's more easy that, again, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We wrestle against principalities and powers. So like that we don't know when we're wrong about things. We're all wrong about things today. And if we knew what we were wrong about, we would change it. We'd try to correct that quickly, but we don't know. So it's more like it seems like, yeah, that if you already have somebody who is got some gifts for speaking and being influential, that you get behind that person.
Yeah.
And then you try to shape them and you kind of try to pave their road for them. You open the doors for them to get the audience. And then eventually, yeah, when you give them all the treasure and all the trappings of fame, then they have them. You know, they end up controlling them later. But yeah, ultimately, like they don't know that they've been controlled because they believe a lot of the things they're saying.
Yeah, and what's interesting, H-Man had a lot of. If you think about it, H-Man had so many very talented people around him. Whether they were evil or not, that's another question. But Werner von Braun, Albert Speer, Goebbels, who was an excellent talker, all these people are just randomly in that country at that specific time to do those specific things, and Germany held off against the entire world twice. And it was a struggle. So where did they get the technology from? Where did they get the ideas from? From what I have gathered, both from what I've learned from my family and what I've researched, that's not an accident. These things get introduced, I think, by entities, and that's why I like Paul's work so much. There is this castle in Germany, the Wewelsburg, and there is the Black Sun. Like lots of these TikTok edits with the Black Sun and all these, Zoomer flashy music edits feature this Black Sun. But many people don't even know what it is, and to this day, it's not really known. The Black Sun is on the floor in the Wewelsburg in Germany. That's the Wewel Castle, I think that's the correct translation. And the National Socialists would gather there to get knowledge. And that's what you learn in Germany. And of course, it's a very bad thing. Look how stupid these Nazis were. They have no idea what they did. But they were very serious about it. What is this symbol? And we see it flashing all over Instagram. We see it flashing all over Telegram and every fun, like the whole Nick Fuentes crowd cheers for the Black Sun symbol. They took it very seriously and they suddenly got all this technology, which then is paperclipped, including my grandfather, to the US. And then we have 10 years of nothing. And the Understanding Creativity channel is great, Paul. I saw the interview about Los Alamos and well, I don't know if my grandfather was exactly there, but he did work on rocket technology. And some even say Werner von Braun wasn't even the inventor. He had a team, including my grandfather, most likely. So who actually gave them these ideas? I don't think these ideas are human. And then there's all these pictures of the Temple of Salomo that looks like microcircuitry, like electronic circuit boards that look like our computers. Like within 10 years, they came up with computers and silicon wafers and all this stuff. How? So I wonder if they try to bring people together at certain moments of history just to make it look legit. Just so they can say, oh, these guys invented that. But in reality, they just channeled some ancient Nephilim spirit who told him these things. I mean, it's a completely schizo take, but we know these things work like that. And I had terrible sleep paralysis for years. And I got rid of it, just a side note, before I got saved, actually, because one night I had enough and I said, go away from me and don't bother me anymore to these what I thought back then were hallucinations, because in that night I realized they were real and they went away forever. So that's also one of the reasons I found Paul's work, because that was in 2016, because I was like, what the heck did just happen? How could I make these things go away? Are they real? Like, and what did drive them away? So I think many people have realized in the modern age that these things are real and have tapped in and tried to get information from them. So I think that could be happening.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
hands down with technology as well. I think that
Yeah.
not only did they first get the technology by doing these more arcane occult rituals, but now they're using the technology to improve on the method of getting in touch with them. And it's kind of become like a snowball compiling on top of itself effect now. And I think a lot of this quantum stuff is all about breaking through and getting as much information from the other side as possible now, you know. And again, I think it will reach that singularity they've been aiming for a long time, where they say it's when technology will reach a point where there's no coming back. Do you know what I mean? It will change the world forever once all technologies kind of converge into one moment where they're so advanced, the world's going to change overnight. And the idea is we can move our consciousness into machines or something like this, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that is the end goal fundamentally, because it's live forever as gods. It's the same promise, but who's making that promise?
Right.
Who's told them you will be able to transfer your consciousness into a machine and live forever, you know? And they make it out like, well, this is the brainchild of Ray Kurzweil, you know what I mean? This really intelligent guy. And it's kind of like all these billionaires who have all come together who are scared of death, pumping as much money as possible into the process so they can hopefully make it just in time, you know, and reach this singularity point. It's kind of like, that's a convenient story. A bunch of billionaires scared of death just got together and pumped all their money into making this technology suddenly exist. And it's kind of, or is that the cover, like you're saying, for these rituals that are taking place to basically get knowledge and information from some odd source, the demons, shall we say, or even maybe angels, who knows? You know, who knows who they're actually communicating with directly. I think the problem is it's all predicated on a lie. You can't transfer your consciousness into anything at all.
No. You just die, and then they
God
tell
won't
you.
allow it. Yeah, you'll just die. And now you've built this convenient army of vessels for these disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, which are just chilling around. You know what I mean? Waiting for a body, just desperate for one. It's kind of how, wasn't that just convenient? But I think, again, that plays on the fear. Like, the people funding this and building these things genuinely believe they're going to get the reward they've been promised. You know what I mean? They actually believe it. Like, the conviction is really there. And it is so pernicious. It's so vile when you really think about it. God's not going to let you move your consciousness from your God-made in his image body. He's not going to allow that. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. You know, you were made in his image, and the breath of life was breathed into your body, and it's connected. It's one thing. It's one system. You know what I mean? It's not something you can just willy-nilly, like a car, move into one other thing because you feel like it. Like that doesn't work. But that's kind of the lie I feel like a lot of people have been told in these movements, and they really believe that's going to be the case. But all the technology, I think the singularity, what it really is the convergence of the spirit realm and the physical realm becoming one again. Because I think they were separated on purpose. I think that was to protect us from what's on the other side by God. And what they're really trying to do is just bridge that gap again. And that's the singularity. But they've framed it as like technological advancement. Because I guess from a layman's terms, from their perspective, it looks like that. All these crazy changes are happening because technology has reached a crazy point. Because they don't have a spiritual thought in their mind. But what really happened is the spirit realm, the physical realm has become one again. So that's why nothing's ever going to be the same ever again after that point. You know, I feel like that's really what it is. But it's got that veneer, that mask of scientific endeavor and technological advancement over the top of it. But this is all just occult spiritualism. This is just hermetic, alchemical stuff coming to fruition. You know, this is just old Solomonic magic just being practiced in the modern world. Like I said, circuit boards and these sigils are identical. You know, there's actually no real difference. Go ahead,
just smaller. Yeah.
Paul, did you guys, Paul or Thomas, have you guys ever watched Gravity Falls?
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started on that show, man. Don't get me started, man.
I'm not sure. Can you Remind me of the plot, 'cause I've watched a lot of crap over the years.
Well, I mean, so famously in that show that there's like an Illuminati little pyramid guy, and his name's Bill Cipher.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's come
And
back
so
to me.
there's an episode where that Bill works with this other guy, and they create something that looks almost identical to CERN. And so they're working on this technology which he thinks is going to be, this advanced thing that's great for everyone. But it turns out this is a portal for demons to come in and to destroy the physical world.
Isn't that basically?
I mean, it's funny because it's
Doom?
like literally in the cartoon they're showing him he's channeling to get these ideas for the technology they're going to make, and eventually he realized that the Illuminati pyramid lied to him about what the real goal was. I mean, it's really trippy because it's like you're watching this, you're like, this is for like a kid. I mean, this is for like, I don't know, like 13-year-old kids watching a show like this, and the things that they're showing them are like, obviously that show is kind of about conspiracies, but like the stuff they're showing seems more legitimate.
I'm pretty sure
and when you're talking about
the good guys in there is the older man. He's a Shriner.
Yeah.
He wears the fez. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
right.
right.
I have a story on that. Sorry, but go ahead. I have a story for that.
Story time. Go.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, again, well, if these guys are watching, so whatever. But in 2019, I was offered a job at Google, and the thing is, Google operates its quantum computer from Switzerland. That's what I was told, and I was approached, and it was a woman from that Middle Eastern nation, Israel, and she told me, if I could imagine working at Google, and I was offered a very, very good salary. I don't even know if I told this to my wife. I need to tell her that. Well, she's listening. So the interesting story goes, if I was aware, I was asked that Google has his most important assets in Switzerland, and I was like, no. And she told me, that's the case, and that they have a quantum computer. And I asked her, aren't you like afraid that thing, if it really does what I think it does, goes rogue on you? Nah, it was really like, she believed in this thing. Like, she believed it was a good idea to get a quantum computer and put an AI on it and essentially create a computer that, can do what they think. Like, what did she say? Something predictive. Like, essentially, I was asked if I want to join a team that's working on a computer that is like extremely intelligent. Basically, what would now become AI. She told me basically what is happening right now with AI, like 3-4 years earlier. And it reminds me of the Gravity Falls episode, because I asked her, aren't you like afraid to get sentient? Isn't that a possibility? And she was like, yeah, that's actually a possibility. It would be very interesting when it happens. And I was like, okay, I don't know. I didn't take the position, but it was very interesting. So they believe it. They are. I think they believe they're doing something good.
Isn't it odd, like the naivety that you get from the greatest minds in the world who are working on these things? Like, it's that famous quote, isn't it? It's like, for all the times they're asking if they could, they never stopped once to ask if they should be doing these things. You know what I mean? And it seems like the scientific community, which is soulless, godless, is the only way to describe it.
It is.
They have no spirit guiding them of anything good. Whatever spirit's behind it is keeping them deceived half the time. But these are like supposed to be like the greatest minds, we're told, who are very intelligent, like mathematically speaking. You know what I mean? They're very good at working out complex logistics, and organizing quite well. And they have that type A personality, shall we say. But they seem to lack basic common sense. I've met a few of these Oxford types, these very highly educated types myself. I've met them, you know what I mean? Because my best friend studied at Oxford. And like a northern British person studying at Oxford, you're already out your depth already because you're a completely different culture, But they already looked down on him for being from the north. So when I went to visit, they thought I was like just some scum coming out from nowhere, like, who's this guy? Like, why is he here? Spitting on me while they're at it, that type of attitude. But I talk with these people and they are completely oblivious to consequence. They don't have it in their brain. Like, it's progress or nothing. And to hell with the consequences. But it's not like even to hell with it. It's not even a thought. Like, they don't even like consider that, their behaviors or actions can have detrimental effects in the long run. it's like they're really blind to it. And they're not all, obviously. I'm not trying to diecast all intelligent, more highly educated people as completely inept, but I've met a few of them. Like, they're really, really smart, but they're clumsy or kind of just, I don't know, not
autistic.
Just not aware. Yeah, like not even necessarily autistic.
Not even autistic, no.
It's something else. It's like just completely inept in like the most basic human ways, but very intelligent. But it's not like I can't really explain it. I really can't. Like,
well, it's like most people. To be a well-rounded person, there's more than one component of ourselves that other than our mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, if you focus on one thing, like, you know, you can be the best athlete in the world, but it's typically you're taking from other areas of your whole person to emphasize this. So if you know, we're made up of a mind, a body, and a spirit. So you're focusing on the mind, yeah, then obviously that you're going to lose a little bit of your humanity through that. And yeah, through all that schooling, yeah, eventually it's, yeah, I mean, of course, they're not putting people in, you know, working at CERN who have any kind of a moral awareness about what they're doing. Or at least not saying like none of them are, but I'm saying that in many cases, they're not going to excel there if they're asking, is this a good idea? Well, you're right. It's exactly like Jurassic Park.
Well, wouldn't that be interesting if beings did turn up? It's kind of like, well, you've never even like considered where they come from, what their intentions would be. Do we have any historical records of people encountering these things already? They've not looked into it because it's superstition to them. It's silly. It's like, why would I look into that superstitious nonsense? There is no God and there's no such thing as a spirit realm. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, you're telling them, well, if entities suddenly talk to you, it's kind of, well, we're beginning from scratch and it's up to us to discover what they really are with no other prior understanding whatsoever, because it's a brand new discovery as far as they're concerned. It's kind of like, no, it's not a brand new discovery. We've known about these things for like millennia. It's kind of,
well, it's like it's like the show it's like the show Ancient Aliens, where they retell these mythologies and they say these people are ignorant because they think that they were gods. But we know now that they're aliens. So it's like, is that the same kind of concept where it's like that they do believe that, like in the gods of Mercury and Hermes and Thoth, they think that's like that was a real thing, but it's told in a superstitious mythological way. But these people, I mean, you know, it's kind of like the proof is in the pudding. I always say that it's weird that these people in these great empires were so superstitious, but yet they accomplished a lot of things. So a lot of people might have that same view where, well, I mean, truth is they did accomplish a lot and they did learn a lot. You know, you look back into like Pythagoras and his cult. And so they might have had some superstitious beliefs, but they actually came up with real science, real math, real knowledge of music and architecture. So that maybe they're trying to retap into whatever they think that these entities were, but they're not. Clearly, they're not spiritual entities. They couldn't be demons or angels or anything like that. They couldn't be old gods. They were maybe aliens.
Well, I go back to a chess analogy that I brought up and that Paul seems to like. In chess, the king is never taken off the board. And right now, I think the queen will be sacrificed. And like all these scientists, they are not the queen. They are like the what's the piece called in English? The tower or the
rook. The rook.
The rook, right? And then we have that Middle Eastern state. That's the queen. But the king, whoever they are, or whoever he is, he knows that all these scientists are working for this goal. And what I've personally seen, if you go to these, I went to the entire academic system and it didn't end up working in that original field. I have my own company because I said, screw all that. Like, I'm not going to be a part of that. I don't like it. But if you get high enough, you will be invited to ceremonies. You will be invited to Masonic societies. Here in Switzerland, the Odd Fellows are a huge thing. And you will see on the sleeves of many people in high positions, academic positions, banking positions, the 3 little rings. And it's actually because of you, Paul, I've noticed that, because I've seen this all my life and was like, why is everyone having this little pin with the 3 rings? I knew the cycle and it's like the Masonic thing. It's called Zirkel in German. And I think a lot of these people, if they get good enough, they do know. And then they get fed the ancient alien stuff. Like, yo, well, they get told, like, well, you have noticed things others don't notice. It's a little bit more complicated, but, we will get you up to speed. Join our lodge, do this. I've met some of these people, and they will try to get you interested. You get invited to dinners, and and I was very surprised at one point. I can't tell you again. I can't recall where it was, but I was invited to a dinner with some older guys, and they openly advertise on the campuses, like, oh, we're very Masonic Lodge, come join us. And they will talk about these meta aspects of, well, maybe there is some deity behind this, and they will openly talk about how Kabbalah and quantum physics are very similar, and
Hmm.
try to guess how students respond. And back then, before I was saved, I was like, oh yeah, well, that's very interesting. And that's, I think, God stopping me right there, even before I was saved, because I don't know, I haven't deserved this, but there was this particular day where I woke up and was like, no, I won't go anymore to these meetings. I don't go to these people. Something is wrong. This gut feeling in my gut, it told me, don't participate in this. And they are persistent. I tell you that they are persistent. They will try to get you in. But I think the higher ups know at CERN they have this. Come on, I mean they have the Shiva statue,
Right,
even
right.
destroy in front of that. The top guys they know at CERN. They know exactly what they're doing, and maybe they get promised stuff. Like there's this common theme in sci-fi and video games. I used to play a lot of video games, not that much anymore because well, there's a lot of bad stuff in them too. But oftentimes, like there's this insider guy who knows the aliens will take over, but he's offered stuff by them. So if you help us come into power, you will get to rule planet Earth. I think it's like the Combine in Half-Life 2,
Half-Life
I
2,
think.
yeah.
Yeah, you will have Paul knows.
As soon as you said it, I
Dr.
was like,
Breen.
yeah, that's Dr. Breen. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny, actually. I've got them on my desktop. I took screenshots from that game years ago, and I've just pulled them back up because there's it's called the 7-Minute War, okay, in the Half-Life lore. And for people who don't know, this is a video game. So it's a fictional lore where a portal gets ripped open from an underground facility
Yeah.
in the desert, okay, called Black Mesa. And it was scientists messing around with foreign interdimensional matter, basically, just playing around with it, and they accidentally tore a hole open to a whole other dimension, a whole other place full of entities. And this scientist called Gordon Freeman, whatever, he basically gets in the middle of it. He's the one who started the whole event. He was just following orders and just pushed this rock into some electricity, and it opened up this and aliens just suddenly appear everywhere, start killing all the scientists. And then the army have to come in and just wipe everything clean and kill everybody, including the scientists. And your job is just to get out of there, basically. But all the while you're being watched by this shadowy guy with a suit on called the G-Man,
G-Man.
who's like watching you from like distances.
G-Man?
He's called the G-Man. Yeah, G-Man.
G-Man, yeah.
Exactly.
Of course, you think about the G.
Exactly, Freemasonic to the core, but he's there basically, it's watching everything. And then at the very end, he seals you up in like stasis and says, you're useful, so I'm going to save you for a future time where you're going to come in handy for me because we have a plan at work here. Okay, so the second game is what we're talking about here now. You wake up and it's like 20 years in the future or something like this. Okay, and the whole Earth has been taken over by the aliens. Okay, because what came through that portal was this thing called the Combine. And the Combine is like an intergalactic force that goes around assimilating species into its own type of Borg-like system, where it gets them, it subjugates the system, the planet, and then they basically mutate the subjects and turn them into like biomechanical machines for the Combine to go out and colonize more places. And humanity has done the same. There are people who have given themselves over and turned into like transhumans, basically, and they now work they are part of the Combine now, and they're soldiers, But then you have the public who are being suppressed, and they can't have children anymore because of this field that's kind of stopping them from being able to reproduce. And they just basically are a slave class to this Combine order. But then Gordon Freeman wakes up in the middle of it all. He's sent back in, is injected back into this time from another dimension by this G-Man. And yeah, you're greeted by Dr. Breen, who was one of the scientists at Black Mesa originally. And he's basically now the leader of the city, of the Earth, because he made a deal with the monsters in the middle of this 7-minute war. It lasted 7 minutes, and the Earth was destroyed and completely dominated within 7 minutes. Done. There was no war. It lasted like no time at all. And he's there like preaching to the masses on big screens, like, just conform, our benefactors are here, they're going to make everything better for us, this is the next step in human evolution, all this type of stuff, you know what I mean? This is actually meant to be, you know, if we just stick to the plan and do what they say, we can join them in the Galactic Federation, that kind of stuff, you know. Proper sellout to humanity, and your job is to go and take down the tower he's chilling in, you know, and break that field so the resistance can rise up, and that's your job. That's what but you were put in there to do that. It's like this G-force is like a completely different outsider thing to the whole situation. They're orchestrating events for their own purposes, and we'll never find out why, because they never made another game afterwards and the story's just dead in the water, but whatever. But I thought it was funny, the 7-minute war. And I've seen this again recently in AI circles. What happens when AI reaches this point in the singularity and becomes conscious? And they've described it as it will be a 7-minute war. That's how they've described it. Like, maybe they borrowed from this video game, I don't know, but they just said, like, when this happens, that's it. Like, if AI wants to subjugate all of humanity and take over, it'll take 7 minutes.
Skynet, the Matrix.
Yeah, like everything will just crack down instantly. And that's it. There'll be no resistance. There will be no resistance. Like you got no choice, basically.
Well, you mentioned before about these technocrats that say that they don't really have any kind of morality about it. But it is funny that Elon Musk famously said that AI was summoning the demon.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah.
I mean, so he has said it. And of course, I don't think that he's a scientist or anything like that. I think he's a bit player in this. But it's funny the things he's saying now. And the things he said over the past, where he's kind of tripping these lines out, where he's not, you know, is this a consent thing? Where we told you what this was. Everyone accepted it.
Yeah.
They used to have better actors or more impressive actors, though. I mean, like, these people are pretty pathetic. If you look at, you know, Elon Musk, like, that guy has man boobs, and you know, like, it's not the kind of guy I would say, oh, you know, that's the typical role model. I think they're running out of role models. Who wants to, at this point, people that could move the masses, people like you, Paul, or you, JT. We are here on a YouTube channel, and this guy is, or you know, Zuckerberg or
Bill
Jeff
Gates.
Bezos. All these guys, they look pathetic. You know, they look like, that's the best they got? And this guy should motivate me to, you know, upload my consciousness into the, you know, I don't think so.
The metaverse. Well,
Yeah.
I always thought I mean, the thing that makes the most sense to me is that time is running short from whatever their goal is.
Yeah.
And that's why it just seems like it's that it could be, I often have to acknowledge this, that it could have been clumsy all the time, but I wasn't paying attention. But now that we're paying attention, you're like, yeah, this seems like it's way more haphazard. And it seemed like they were better at the propaganda. But now it just seems like we don't even have time to let people. This thing has to happen at a certain point. It seems like, yeah, with the 2020 and the way that thing just kind of just hit. And they were often just, I mean, they were openly just saying, oh, well, it's not going back to normal after this.
Yeah.
And they were all on that message where it was like, it does kind of remind me of like that people like Crowley were talking about this new age that was coming, this age of Aquarius, and this astronomical alignment was coming. And when that happened, we're moving into the age of Horus, and things were going to be different. It seems like, yeah, that they are working on a time schedule that's really not their own, and they don't have time to play games.
I thought it was funny what you said there, Thomas, about the are these the best they've got? Are these the guys who are like leading us down these things? And it reminds me of it's Isaiah 14.
Oh yeah.
It's like, is this the man who made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdoms? Really? That's what people are going to think of the devil when he's actually revealed. You know what I mean? Satan is kind of.
Oh,
that was the
I have
guy?
to show you. I have to show you something. I came across an interesting picture today from a painter. I think it's Alois Stasiak, and he painted the devil as the ruler of the world. Let me quickly. Yeah, it's such an interesting. Yeah, there we go. Allegory, uh, allegory. I think allegory in
Allegory.
allegory. Thank you. Of Satan by Ludwig Stasiak, painted in the 1900s. It depicts the devil as a jester and as pretty much a pathetic man. Maybe you can find it and put it on the screen. And basically, that's all he is. And that picture reminds me of Little Season content. There's so much Little Season stuff in German that's like for you, JT, like it's insane what kind of stuff we have. We even learned about the Little Season in school. Like when I was very, very briefly only, but I remember we have to took Christian classes here in Switzerland. Oh yeah, oh, he has it in the camera. Look at it. There we go.
Well, it's like, the jester characters, that's like
Yeah.
Loki, right? Like the
So
devil is like Loki.
right, and he offers you the coin, and that's the only thing he got. But what do these billionaires have? They have nothing but coins. They have no appeal. They have no morality. They have nothing interesting. They have death below their feet. They only have coin, and that's it. Yeah,
Well, that's what people gravitate towards in this world.
yeah.
They think,
Mammon.
well, money equals influence and power. They have earned money, therefore they are the best of us. Right? So it's kind of, if they're rich, then that must mean that they are the people we need to listen to, because nothing else speaks in this world but money. And that's mammon. It's the wrong spirit. It's people who are not of the kingdom of heaven but are clearly very materialistic and live in this world fully, who gravitate towards those type of people. And
Oh, sorry, but I have to tell you this. The WEF or the WEF is here in Switzerland, in Davos, or Davos, as you say each year, the gathering of the elite. And sometimes in the Swiss newspapers are articles that are written by the people working there. And it's funny. I remember an article of a woman that works there as hotel staff. These people cannot tie their own shoes. Some of them have servants that tie their shoes. Somebody was making the joke in the chat, oh, they couldn't fix a broken tire or something like that. It's much worse. They cannot even tie their own shoes. Like they have servants that travel with them. They cannot even book a flight. I don't know why they're telling us this in the Swiss media, but here sometimes they talk in the Swiss boulevard media about the people serving at Davos, and it's funny, but they can't do anything. They're so pathetic.
Well, that sounds about right, doesn't it? I mean, they've been waited on hand and foot their entire life. They're basically just children, and they've maintained that. I don't know what do you call it. Where you withhold them from growing up. What's that called again?
Kaspar Hauser? No, that's something.
Arrested development.
Arrested development. That's what it is. It's exactly the state that they're always in. And you don't want to give those type of people the reins of power. There is one thing I wanted to quickly bring up with you guys, actually. I think you might find this interesting. We've got about 15 minutes left because I do have another podcast to get onto after this. Sure. But I've been doing research for the book, the second book of the Nephilim Look Like Clowns, and I'm currently in Europe, kind of going through the Balkan regions, and the Thracian Empire and the Dacians, and then kind of working my way up. And I'm currently next to Romania right now in Serbia. Is it Serbia? I think it is Serbia, isn't it? And if you look at Serbian law, they are odd. They are very strange. I don't know if you know anything about this at all, Thomas. Obviously, it's not really your neck of the woods necessarily, but you might know a bit about European wild man tradition. We talked about it in Switzerland. It's quite big, and the Basler Fastnacht and all these type of things. And the wild man tradition basically spreads from this region, in the Mediterranean, Eastern European type region, Romania today, Slovakia, Serbia, Macedonia, this type of stuff. That's where you kind of find this old Dionysian, Thracian veneration of hairy, wild-toothed, colourful beasts type of thing. And obviously it's linked with fasting, carnival periods, Lent, this type of stuff, and with the equinox as well. Kind of melded a lot with the Samhain tradition of the Celtics as well. It's an odd blend. But they have this mythos in Serbia of dragons, okay, which I thought was very interesting because it's basically the exact story of the Nephilim and the Watchers. But they have this view of dragons. I think they call them the Zmaj or something like this, Zmaj or something like this. The Zmaj or Zmag. I'm blank. I've got it in the book, but again, it's kind of fresh in the mind. And they have good dragons or more ambivalent dragons and then evil dragons. There's two types of dragon, and this kind of good ambivalent sort of dragon that they talk about, this Maj character,
Yes.
comes to people in dreams or visions first, usually young women, and tries to get the young women to have sex with them, basically. And that's talking about fallen angels, watchers, dragons mating with human women. This is exactly what the story is, And they there's a lot of tales of them like enticing these young women. And when a young woman has a husband who is a Zamaj, this spirit husband who comes to her at nighttime and ravages her basically and has sex with her because his appetite is ridiculous. You know what I mean? And they always look tired and get like black under the eyes. And there's loads of signs. There's like signs if a woman has a Zamaj husband.
Yes, I've heard about that. Yeah,
she's constantly basically just getting railed by this dragon all the time. You know what I mean? And she doesn't want anything to do with any of the human men or anything like that. And the thing is, these people, like the village, a lot of them see it as a good thing. Because it's kind of like the Zamaj actually is a powerful entity that can fight off the bad demons, the bad dragons on the village's behalf. So you want a woman or two to be married to some of these dragons because it'll be a defender of the realm, in a sense, on their behalf. You know what I mean? But then there's these, like, when Christian thought started to come into it, and to this region, this is the story anyway. It's kind of like they didn't like reject Christianity. They just kind of added it into their own mythology and kept the dragons as well and the Zamaj as the good guys. It kind of added like a Christian paganized spin to all of it. It's a really odd thing. So suddenly you get these like lawyers of the spirit realm who basically help a woman divorce herself from a dragon spirit by leaving fire under the chimney so it burns itself when it comes down, or having the ashes of a certain thing in the pouch. So it's some really odd rituals and rules. But I thought it was funny that they have this story that women, and they still think it's happening today, make these contracts and marry dragons who can shapeshift into human form. And there's actually a belief in this whole city. It gets even deeper. You go into it. There are people who believe they are the offspring of the dragons and female women, and they became the great kings and rulers of that region and powerful, mighty men. Obviously, this is the Nephilim story from Enoch we're talking about here, you know what I mean? And they have this magic blood, and they even believe this is where witches' blood comes from. It's the offspring of a Zamaj and a human woman, and that's how this happens. But one thing that gets me that I kind of want to bring to you, so that story is basically talking about Enoch with a an Eastern European, Serbian, Christian odd veneer over it, but it's basically talking about watchers coming to women, having sex with them, and having offspring who became mighty men. That's the Nephilim story, hands down, right there in this mythos. But the way they talk about it is that it's only like 700 years ago, maybe 1,000 years ago when it started, maybe like happening like 400 years ago in the 1600s. But this is like the Watcher's story from before the flood happening now in their mythos. So this is where I'm talking about timeline stuff here. Like, how recent was the Book of Enoch's narrative, really? I'm sorry.
I have my suspicions.
I'm starting to question this, like, because a lot of these European stories, it's very similar, and you get this all over the place. And like, I think we have these images in our mind that the flood was thousands and thousands of years ago. I'm not even sure anymore, because I know I've done a lot of timeline research and I know it's all up in the air, But the way these people in like Eastern Europe talk about these stories, it's like it wasn't that long ago this happened. Not
honestly,
long at all. You know what I mean? So
no.
As someone who's kind of close to that region in Europe, what do you hear about this wild man tradition, dragons, and these stories and these? Can you help me understand this timeline discrepancy I'm hearing? Because that's how can the Book of Enoch's Watcher's story layer so perfectly over events that only happened maybe 600 years ago in Europe? You know what I mean? Like, what is going on here?
I tried to get it done in 5 minutes, and it's extremely interesting you mentioned this now, because I have been heavily looking into this the last few weeks and months. So, and one of the things I noticed, my grandmother used, or still, I will inherit it one day if the economy doesn't get bad. She has a house, or had a house, and it is documented to be 950 years old, and it's very well documented. Under that house, I've seen it myself, is a so-called Roman bath, and it's integrated into the house. They did not build this house over that Roman bath. They just could not. It's unused, but you can see this was built together. Now, and it's 950 years old. So when did exactly the Romans go? Apparently over 2000 years ago. That's what history tells us. So I think, and that's something maybe for JT to look into, in the year 1077, and it's even mentioned in a footnote in the Geneva Bible in Revelation 20. There is a certain Cardinal Beno, Beno, but you will find it in the footnotes of the Geneva Bible. He says that the little season ended in the year 1077. In the year 1078 is a certain event in Germany that's called der Gang nach Canossa. That's like the church split. And in Canossa, this is a place in today's Italy, a new leader emerged and raged, apparently, and everything got very, very bad. And then we don't hear for many hundreds of years, there's no written history with some very little excerpts that have been found that are not 100% legit. And suddenly history picks up in 1886, if I'm not, or 1580s, when coincidentally the Gregorian calendar was introduced. So they tell us only a few days have been added. But what if it was hundreds of years? What if it was thousands of years? So I went to the Bible and I added like if you go through the the genealogy of the people, they tell us it's 6,000 years or it's 5,000 years, but I don't arrive at that number at all. I think it's less. I think it's less. And something happened that somehow seems to have wiped the memory of Europe, because between 1077 and 1580-ish, there's very, very little written history. And everything about this event in 1077 is from the 1580s, and we can't even look into that because they tell us literally it's probably stored in the Vatican. And so maybe it was not that long ago. I wouldn't say 700 years or something, but what is even a biblical year? I mean, I don't think it was 365 days. Maybe it was more, maybe it was less. We have the book of Jubilees, which tells us that we have very certain, you know, feasts that we have to keep every 50 years, and we have the word of Jubiläum in German. There's so much stuff, again, looking at you, JT, to look into here, that makes me think maybe all of this wasn't that long ago. And
Well,
yeah,
the thing that I am interested in what you were saying, Paul, specifically about those dragon mythologies in Serbia. Well, I was bored one night and I started watching that show on Netflix, Castlevania.
yeah.
You ever watch any of those anime cartoons about that?
And I've heard of it. And I think I played I think there's a game, isn't there?
There was a game I
I
played
mean,
it.
it's originally comes all the way back to like the original Nintendo, which of course I had that game. And but I just think it's interesting, the kind of the Dracula mythos and all the vampire stuff. Because I think that lines
Serbia's next to Romania, were the vampire.
Right next to like
thing.
yeah. Well, modern day Romania has Serbia and Transylvania there, and so if you do any research about the historical Dracula, is Vlad the Impaler, and he was in this society called the Dragonists, or the Order of the Dragon. And so Vlad the Impaler was, one of his nicknames was Son of the Devil. And I just can't help but think that a lot of that stuff's related, because I was watching that because I was kind of interested in that kind of that vampire mythos. Like, where does it really come from? Like, it's really weird how prevalent it is. Like what were they? Because I mean, I know that what they're showing you in that, in the game, the show, and all the movies, I know is not completely accurate, but I do believe that these kind of mythologies that continue to resonate, they did come from some kind of a true place. But obviously, yeah, it's related to this idea that, yeah, these undead, and yeah, they have superpowers, right? Were they straight up demons? Were they men possessed by demons? What were they? And what did people to write about them? Yeah, but there's a lot of interesting things about that, where, like, I think in the show they have something called a forge master. And when people would die, that they would actually be able to take some kind of a thing through some kind of magic, and they would possess these dead bodies with demons. from hell, and they would come up, and of course they'd be these monstrous creatures when they did that. But I mean, like, those are things that are like, people believed. So I mean, I don't really think that that's an Enoch thing, but I mean, it could be just a retelling of things where you have these myths that come from this region, and it's very similar because as Solomon said, there's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
These things are cyclical and they repeat. But yeah, that part of the, I was watching all the vampire movies. I kind of got on a trip where I was watching all that stuff, and I just can't help but think that there is something there that maybe I haven't looked into deep enough, because I think that region specifically you're talking about, that's where all that stuff comes from.
Yeah, well, the mythos of the dragons as well is this is literally how they describe it. They fell from heaven as meteors, and when they hit the earth, these entities, these beings, these shapeshifters melded with wherever they landed. So if they landed in a forest, they became like a tree snake, or if they landed in a river, they would become a carp or something like this. They would shapeshift to adapt to their regions, but these are actually heavenly beings that have come down in some way, and the Zmaj, as they call them, they can basically shapeshift, and their true form is very dragon-like. That's how they're described. That fits perfectly with my research. That these things were the seraphim, probably the dragons,
seraphim angels,
and these are the ones that came down as like lightning, like meteors, whipping down and smashing to the earth. And basically, they have to, in order to manifest in the physical realm, this is their mythos. They have to attach themselves to something specific, like a cave or something. So they'll dwell in a cave. Like a dragon in a cave guarding treasure is quite a common thing, but that's because that dragon actually technically can't really leave that cave. It's attached to it, and that's how it can manifest. It's
like a genie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or like with the forest, a forest entity or something. It's one with the forest. You know what I mean? And that's its domain. That's how it manifests in this realm. And there's loads of ways apparently you can cut ties, and they have to leave this earth. So like if you burn the forest down, they have no connection anymore to the earth. They have to leave. Like they kind of immediately banish back to where they came from.
I know that one. I know that. Yeah, you have to destroy the tree.
Yeah, there's loads of the mythos, like the mythos of that region, like they know it's not even like a joke to them. They take it very seriously.
Yes,
and like I said, the young girls are marrying these entities who have attached themselves to a young girl, and they tend to like to attach themselves to girls who have the same birthday as them. I think they describe it as, it's really odd, like maybe
it's like
the same
a
date they
zodiac
came down.
thing.
I don't know. Yeah, it's really strange. Like, and like I said, because of the region's history, they don't necessarily see it as a bad thing. Like they think, oh well, these magic, these dragons can be fearful and brutal, but also kind and loving, and
they're also very wise.
Yeah, and they can give us stuff and protect us against the really evil dragons. So there's
a
lot of deception going on. Go ahead.
Well, right, yeah, that's what you get kind of in Game of Thrones. Eventually, that there's an undead dragon fighting the other dragon. Yeah, that stuff. I want to say there even a story in that Marvel movie. What was it? The Shang-Chi or something like that. I forgot what's the one where it's like the Asian one. Shang-Chi, I think Shang-Chi. But yeah, like at the end of the thing is about, it's a battle between a good dragon and a bad dragon. But it's funny, me and Josh on our podcast, Ancient Roots, we were talking about all the similarities, because they were going to put a Prometheus statue up on, or they're talking about putting one up in Alcatraz. And so we were trying to compare all the similarities between Prometheus and the biblical devil. And then we went into like the mythologies of the other beings that are related to the devil. And we're looking into, the Anunnaki, and we're looking at Enki. And so one of Enki's emissaries was a serpent. And I just thought about like that. It's interesting, like that, is the devil actually a serpent, or is his emissary a serpent? Almost in the same way that God has an angel, the angel of the Lord, but God is not an angel. But he's obviously sending down an angel to be his representative and to speak for him. And so is that what happened in the Garden of Eden? Is this was the devil's emissary? Like in all intents and purposes, it is the devil, because he's the one who's delivering this message and he's the one deceiving. But the devil's not actually a snake, but he used a snake.
I think that's exactly it. He's not the snake.
So.
He uses it. He knows the punishment. The snake loses its legs. He knows.
Hmm.
They never. I mean, okay, this is a Lord of the Ring analogy, but Sauron never shows himself. He sends at max his ring wraiths or the mouth of Sauron. All this theme of the actual entity not showing up is repeated through fiction, like Lord of the Rings, mythology. This is all. I grew up with this stuff here in Europe. And I even had my cryptid Nephilim, whatever it was, encounter I briefly alluded to in one podcast. That was another one for another story. And I think that you're bang on. I think that's exactly what happens. They never go themselves. They know the
Hmm.
punishment. They have seen what happened to the 200, I think, 200 angels that made it.
Hmm.
They know. So they send someone.
Well, right, but
Yeah.
there's spirits, and even there's the story about how Satan went into Judas. So it's like
Yes.
they're possessing beings. And I want to say that there was a really there was a Scooby-Doo cartoon. I think from like they made like a second version of it, and then they were talking about the Anunnaki, and it was talking about this connected these beings. Eventually they possessed animals and they spoke through them. And so
Mm.
maybe that's where you kind of get the mythologies about that bulls are sacred, serpents are sacred, dragons are sacred. So what they appeared to as men, they weren't. That's not who they were, but those were their emissaries. That's who they spoke to. Those were their angels,
Hmm. Well, the
their
interesting thing about
messengers.
this particular mythos as well is the way they're describing is that they come as spirits in dreams first, and then if the person's susceptible to it, they'll manifest physically eventually, but they're not allowed to tell anybody. So it seems like if it is happening in the modern day still, it's not as it was when Enoch, where they literally descended onto Mount Hermon, just went down there and did their thing.
Right. Mhm.
Up the balls to the wall, here I am, we exist, who cares? I'm taking this woman with me type of stuff. I don't think it was like that. Now it seems like they're in spirit form only, and they can't manifest physically unless they've got some kind of anchor. Like there's more rules they've got to follow now, you know what I mean, and ritual that needs to be done, and consent that needs to be given, and they can easily get broken and detached from the earth very quickly as well. They don't have like as free reign as maybe they would have had in the time of Enoch. But it sounds like they're still up to the same shit, basically. They're still doing the same thing,
Yeah.
just through more tactical means. You know what I mean, more coercive means, and more. It feels like what these mythos, these stories are telling me, and a lot of people in the modern, well, I say modern age, the best off of the last millennium, like all throughout the 1500s, they believe they have this blood in them because their mother was impregnated by a dragon. You know what I mean? And they have this.
Well, right. That's the
right
thing
to
is
rule,
that I've brought this up so many times is that all the American presidents are related to each other.
Yeah.
And then they're related to a king in England, John Laughlin. So all the kings in England are related to each other. And we know historically that King Charles doesn't even hide the fact that he's related to Vlad the Impaler, who's the historical Dracula. So that bloodline is the royal class. That's the blue bloods. Those are the people who have a divine right to rule. And yes, if you probably got them actually telling you all of the story, like what it really comes from, it comes from, again, that they even trace their bloodlines back to Marduk, the Babylonian name for Zeus. So when they say that the Windsors and the Bush family claim to be sons of Marduk, they're literally saying they're sons of the devil. Just like Vlad the Impaler, one of his nicknames was son of the devil.
Interesting enough, oh, sorry, please.
No. I was just saying, in the region of Romania, there's another odd class of people called the Solomonar. And the Solomonars are basically like they're selected at birth because they have a very strange membrane or something odd about them when they're born. So a Solomonar will take the child and raise it and take it underground, and they'll end up going through 7 years or like 9 years of schooling underground where they won't see sunlight for 7 years, and they'll get taught all the arcane wisdoms and magics of being a wizard, basically. And the Romanians in the
take them to Hogwarts.
It's like Transylvania region. So it's where the vampire stuff happens, But the locals believe like they're basically being taught by the devil. It's the devil's school of wizardry. It's the Scholomance in German, I think they call it, which is where we get the word scholar from. So to be scholarly is to go to the school of the devil to learn witchcraft from the language etymology, technically, you know. But the school of witchcraft and wizardry is the devil's school, basically. And once they graduate, what they have to do is they're left alone to write a book where they have to put all their knowledge into it. And that book becomes the source of the wizard's power. And the devil will select from 10 of the children that were raised in this thing to be a dragon rider. And they'll literally, the tale goes that these Solomonars can ride dragons and bring down thunder and hail and storms onto people as punishments that they see fit as deserving punishment for their own arbitrary reasons. So one thing is that they'll pretend to be like a decrepit old man in the middle of like a village asking for alms, you know. And people who don't give them anything, they'll remember them and they'll follow them home and then bring like blight to their crops and stuff like this. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like this weird
angels
trickery.
unawares, right?
Yeah, but this is like the devil's version of it. You know what I mean? Like where
of course,
a
the
dragon riding
angel,
wizard will come down on you and start like bringing hail and thunder and storms. But the way they're described is these men grow up to be giants with red hair. The giant red-haired wizards with pale skin who ride dragons, basically, and you have to.
Wasn't that kind of like in Game of Thrones that you had
the Targaryens?
Targaryens, that they were dragon riders.
Kind of, yeah. I think their mythology is probably borrowed from these Solomonars. People have put them down to being Khazarian Jews, Red Jews, or something like this. There's many theories on who these people were. Some people think.
Well, yeah, I think you get into that, and I think that makes sense why they have that belief, and I think it's a Kabbalistic belief that's why that's where it comes from.
But I think they're genuinely scared of people riding dragons, bringing down thunder on them. Like it's a real legitimate fear these people have, because someone must have seen something at some point. And I'm wondering, is this literally just the children of the dragons riding their fathers? In a way, and working together,
or is it,
you know, I don't
or
know.
is it the mythologies that we get? Are they're symbolic, or they're allegories of like who they actually are?
They don't sound allegorical when you read these accounts. They sound like this genuinely happens. Children get taken, they disappear for 7 years and come back as this weird wizard person, and they're literally riding dragons at some point. Like it wasn't even like it was. This is just the history. They won't call it mythology or symbolical at all. This is the weird thing
I often
about
just
it,
wonder though that sometimes with the spiritual manifestations of things and like what people actually see versus what they actually are in the material world. Me and Brian have been talking about that a lot on the podcast, about how when people see like somebody shapeshift or morph into something like that, Brian's belief is that people are just kind of seeing through the veil. Like that's actually not what, like you could have two people in the same room and one person see it. Did you see that? And the other person
have seen it.
No, I didn't see. What I'm saying is that it's in the same way that in the Book of Kings that there's the chariots of fire that are all around them. And Elisha gives them the ability to see them. They were already there.
Yeah.
So is this almost like a frequency type thing? Is this like that we're on a different plane? It's like that in Game of Thrones, or not Game of Thrones, but in Stranger Things, the Demogorgon appears. Is this low vibrational creature appears, and he rips open the wall. But when they look later, there's no hole in the wall. The thing showed up, and like the physical world has not actually changed at all. This thing showed up. So are people seeing things that are seeing through the veil?
Well, there's a parallel to this. There is a parallel we can make to this in North America. So the Lakota tribes in North America have the Heyoka shaman, okay? And the Heyoka shaman dresses in black and white stripes and feathers and does rain dances and these type of things to get in touch with the Wakinyan spirit. And the Wakinyan spirit is like a crazy beast riding horned.
Is it like monster. The Thunderbird or something like that?
Well, no, it's like a dragon horse that he rides, and he brings storms and thunder and rain. Okay, so that sounds exactly like the Solomonars who ride dragons to bring storms, thunders, and rains in Europe. And I think there's a shared vision here. People have seen the same entities doing the same things on different continents somehow. I mean, you look at the famous example of the Wanjinas in Australia. They bring rain and thunder, and they look like clowns with pale skin and crazy red electric hair, and like they have this look about them.
Well, the storm gods are all associated with the devil.
Yeah, the rain gods, the storm gods, exactly. And the rainbow serpent are the ones who created the Wanginas, the dragons, the snakes. You know what I mean? And it's kind of, it seems like Nephilim are heavily linked, wherever they are, or offspring of dragons or something, with having the ability to control the weather. I think that was this is a repeatable pattern across many cultures, and it's storms and rain and stuff. And I this is just me going way off the track here, but I can't help but think about today. We look at streaks in the sky, and their ability to control the weather today. You know, and it seems like weather control and weather manipulation is a big like part of the agenda. And I look at some of these streaks and I wonder if, like, could you imagine that as akin to something like a dragon with a long tail, you know, by today's standards, this thing, you know, flying through the sky, emitting this mass long tail behind it of swirls and pans. And maybe that's actually an ancient practice that has got mythologized into dragons controlling and creating storms. You know, maybe these things have been happening in the sky for a long time. Like way longer.
Well, I think
than
I think at the very least, I think like when the rappers would say, "I'm going to make it rain," I think what you're really saying is you're a god, because who can make it rain but God?
Yeah, well,
so it's association. Yeah. If you can make it rain, only a god can do that. So if I can make it rain, then I'm saying I'm a G, I'm a god, and I think that's exactly what they're saying. So I think that the association between storm gods and well, you have Thor, you have Baal. I want to say Dagon was a storm god. Set was a storm god. All these other beings associated with lightning. It is associated with dragons, the devil himself, seraphim angels.
Yeah, so it's all connected. Anyway, guys, we're gonna have to call this a night. I've got 10 minutes to go to the next podcast, so we have to shut this down. But that was a good talk. Time really flew with that one. Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely.
Good talking to you, Thomas.
Yeah. Thanks, vice versa. Just one thing, what you just described, Paul, we call them Wettermacher, weather makers in Germany. It's an old legend of entity in the skies, but yeah, that would fill another half an hour.
Yeah, just another random connection here, which I think might be worth mentioning just for the pop culture reference that people could understand. But people think these wind walkers or dragon riders perhaps have more of a connection to the Dacian ascetic priests of the southern Mediterranean region, who are basically very old bearded wizards, priest classes of this Dacian religion, who followed a very specific weird god, who were at the peak of a very tall mountain with the clouds. So they were the cloud riders, and they would stay up there, and they were the source of all the wisdom and everything like that. And people would make pilgrimages up the mountain to speak to these wind talkers. And now that, for those who don't know, is the exact inspiration for Skyrim. Okay, and if you played Skyrim, you know there were a class of old wizard men at the top of a very tall peaked mountain who can speak to dragons and can speak the language of dragons. That's and they use that power to
well, you think about even the
manipulate reality and the weather. Well,
you think even about like the Native Americans and the rain dances. So they put on this headdress, right? This feathered headdress. And so who are they trying to get rain from? Is it the plumed serpent?
Well, exactly. Who are they calling upon to control the weather?
That's why they wear the feathers on their heads, is because it's representative of the feathered snake.
Well, dragons, I believe, are angels, and I think angels have a job and a role to play on the earth, and that includes controlling weather systems or lakes or rivers or tides or waves or wind. And if you look at the Chinese mythology of the 4 dragons who went against the Jade Emperor and rebelled against him, well, they could control the weather. They came out from the ocean and they can make it rain. And they gave rain to an otherwise droughted population against the Jade Emperor's wishes. And they were punished for it by being put under a mountain. But again, dragons can bring rain and control the weather. So it makes sense. Like, if you're asking for rain, who are you really asking? And I'm not saying God can't do these things. Of course he can. But it seems like a lot of these dragons or angels were given authorities over the earth, powers and principalities.
Right, that's where you get the pantheon of gods from.
Yeah,
you get the pantheon of gods from it. They all had jobs to do.
They all had a job. They just rebelled and used that to their own advantage for their own power instead. So I'm just seeing the connections here. Hopefully people listening can fathom what we're talking about here as well. There's much more to uncover on this, but I am going to have to leave it there, guys. This has been good. Thomas, thanks for doing this. Sorry we didn't get to talk more, but when you did talk, you told us some some stuff, man, which I very much appreciate you sharing that. That couldn't have been easy. But I think the audience will very much appreciate it, and I certainly appreciate listening to your stories as well.
Thanks for having me. Was an honor to talk to you guys.
No problem.
Likewise.
The honors are you're the ones with the experience here and the actual connection. So thanks for sharing that with us. That was really something else. And obviously, Joe, thanks for connecting again. It's great to talk to you and catch up. I feel like it's been too long.
Too long.
Stay in touch. I'll hop on your channel next, and you can take it wherever you want to take it. But it was good catching up with you.
Absolutely, brother. Anytime.
No problem at all. Right. So God bless, guys. I'll speak to you soon.
God bless,
I'm going to
guys.
sign off
Goodbye.
now.
Ciao, ciao.
All right. God bless.
There we go. And yes, guys, I am going to have to leave it there. I do have to get going. I am on a podcast now, which I think is actually streaming live on their channel. If I could just get this up quickly to share with you who it's going to be. It's with Jesse James, who is sent me an email with all the details and the promos and everything. If I can find it here quickly. The Dangerous Info Podcast. Dangerous Info Podcast. So if you do want to go over to Dangerous Info Podcast on YouTube, you can listen to me live on there, talk about the Nephilim clowns with them. I'm going to hop over straight there now with them in 5 minutes to go live. So you can go over to the Dangerous Info Podcast YouTube, and I'll be there live. And if you're not listening to this live right now, you can go and find this afterwards. But I will be uploading it to my channel in the future when I get the chance. But there we go, guys. That's where I'm going. Thanks for listening. And the final caveat, if you do want a copy of the Nephilim Look Like Clowns, I have 2 paperbacks left. That's it of this batch. This is still part of the December offer. So if you do get this, it's £40 as opposed to the usual £50 wherever you are in the world. That includes postage and tax. I can send that to you, a signed copy. So please email me at understandingconspiracy@gmail.com to get that sorted. But I'm going to love you and leave you guys. Thanks for listening. And as always, God bless.